Right. This is going to be Summoning Insight with, bizarrely, actually, MonteCristo here, even though I literally did say in the chat that we would do light banter, then we would bring Monty onto the segment. But you know what?
Oh,
Some
sorry.
people have to learn the hard way. So what I do is how I used to run it on the old events back in the days, boys, is if the event like fucks the sound up in my ears, I'll just actually make the whole first segment about how the sound of my ears is fucked up. But then I'll say something like, speaking of dissonant sounds that were hard to process, how about all the changes in the formats, Monty, and the way that things go in the LCK? There you go, fucking seamless segue. Anyway, so Monty's back just for one segment. He did tell you in the past that he would sometimes call in, and he even said it like in Monty fashion, like, I'll just make myself like a guest on the show when I want to call in, and something like, whoa, oh, that an option, is it? Okay, like it's like an actual phone ring. We have to pick up from the president if it's ringing. Like, oh, fucking, like Monty wants to come on, Yamato, shut up for a second. So, okay, even though also he is just in the red room just permanently now, like that's some sort of metaphor for Monty's career and where it's gone to now. So, right, why are you back, Monty? And what do you want to talk about?
So first off, I asked you guys if you wanted me to come on to talk
Funny
about
if
this,
it's
and
like
you
I said,
said yes.
Yeah, it's funny if it's like
I can't really say no, can I? Like I'm only 5 episodes in, you know.
True.
Look, I've been busy fixing all the LFN things and making sure you guys have delightful sponsors, which we do. So I do want to. There's actually a few things we could talk about. First off, LCK Cup, that format, holy moly. Second off, LTA playoffs format,
Oh, sure.
that format, holy moly. And third off, the ongoing Riot monetization drama
sure.
saga, which I also find to be uniquely hilarious.
But here's where, if we start with the LCK one though, Monty, here's where, look, I don't care. I'm never going to be able to convince losers, but people who actually think that you hate T1 and just like would do anything to see them fail. Well, the joke is, Monty, if we hate T1, we should just go, this is the best format they've ever had. What are you talking about, guys? T1 isn't even as good as Nogshim. But the whole point is this bizarre format basically meant that like they somehow ended, like essentially if you're Nogshim, you just sort of got to skip around almost in a way that T1 doesn't. And T1's just out of the tournament after one play-in match, I think it was even called. So what are your thoughts on this like overall thing? Because obviously, remember, historically, you've seen all the formats of OGN into LCK, and the thing about LCK went from like Gauntlet into single elim, into single elim with selection, into double elim. Like, we've had all the variations. So what, contrasted with history, what is your concern about the LCK Cup format?
So the real problem with the LCK Cup format, I think a lot of people really hate it for kind of nonsensical reasons, but there's a really sensical reason to hate it, and it's because it does have a fatal flaw. And the reason why I got so angry about it was I was watching the T1 HLE game because obviously it was super hype. You know, I watched the HLE DK1 tonight as well. So I've been, and some of the Gen G versus HLE one. So I've been trying to catch some of the more important matches. And so I was just really angry because I asked myself, how is it even possible that the top two teams from one of these groups could meet up in a round of a playoff bracket without a loser's bracket? Okay. Because it's very weird that that could ever happen. Now, obviously, Riot, if you guys don't know how this works, they split the team into two groups that were supposed to be approximately even in terms of strength. They forced them to play across groups. So normally you would see play within the group, but this time it was like one group is one team and the other group is the other team, and they're trying to face off. And the team that got more match wins or series wins was the one that was declared the winners group, and then there was the losers group. And the way it works is the top three teams of the winners group are automatically advanced into basically the top two teams are advanced to the double elimination bracket. The final third team from the winners group is advanced into the playoffs. And then we see four teams, I know it's very confusing, four teams from the losers group enter a play-in, and the bottom two teams out of five from the winners group enter the play-ins. So if you're still with me, that's all fine. Like I don't think it's that big of a deal, because if you do have strong teams in the losers group, you're still going to actually advance into the playoffs. The issue here is that they have two different forms of seeding. So I need to be very clear about this. In the play-ins, the teams were seeded according to their number of series wins. Now, what does this mean? it means that T1 and Hanwha, which had more series wins than the bottom two teams that were from the winners group, were advanced into the first and second seeds. Makes sense, right? You want the best teams out of the losers groups to have the preferable seeding. All right. So what doesn't make sense is they don't keep that seeding into the playoffs. So the seeding in the playoffs is KT, who is the third place team in the winners group, is the top seed. This means that they play the bottom seed, which ended up being Nongshim because T1 and Hanwha both won their initial matches in play-ins, and both of them had 2 chances. Those teams basically had a double elimination bracket. So T1 and Hanwha then play each other with no losers bracket. Hanwha eliminates T1 in a nail biter when T1 is, maybe the third best team, maybe second best team. We'll never know within the actual bracket. And so what we have here is 2 different seeding systems that are being used. Play-ins are seeded based on match wins, and playoffs are seeded based off of who was in the winners group. And this is just fucking terrible because it resulted in this scenario where we just have a weaker bracket. We have a less exciting losers bracket. Nongshim, it turns out Nongshim won, but Nongshim or KT are getting into a double elimination bracket basically for free, one of those teams. They don't actually have to beat somebody who is good. And I just don't understand why you use group stage to seed the play-ins, but then you don't use group stage to seed the playoffs. It makes absolutely no fucking sense and completely resulted in this scenario.
I'll just do what all the horrible reply guys do when teams like T1 do win in bad formats like Worlds. They'll just do this, Monty. Technically what made those groups the way you just described is that T1 themselves lost to Dplus. So Monty, just win your games and then you don't have any problems, do you?
But
yeah, and now I sit back with a shit-eating grin like I just did something.
But the funny thing is like, why is it T1 and Hanwha's fault that the bad teams...
It's ridiculous, yes.
That the bad teams lost more games when they won games. So they were punished for other teams being bad. And then when they were good, by instantly advancing out of play-ins, their punishment was that they had to face each other.
Look, I know that was a rhetorical question, but let me answer it. It's because if Faker had actually had the cultural impact I'm told he did, he'd have inspired those players. He'd have led the way to a new... It'd be like Aragorn at the end of Lord of the Rings for Frodo, and they'd have just all fought so hard to get Faker into that double elimination. But instead, he didn't. Meanwhile, Beryl actually is the true hero. He's like a guy who takes in orphan children and fucking raises them to be superheroes. He's a fucking legend, mate. He's like Splinter from the Ninja Turtles, another reference from the 1990s, but whatever. Go on, Monty, go on.
Also, I just want to point out that KT lost in the head-to-head in the group stage to both T1 and Hanwha, so they wouldn't have gotten seeding based off of head-to-head either. And the funniest thing is you never want to design formats where people are incentivized to lose.
Yes.
But the hilarious shit is if Hanwha or T1 had intentionally lost, gone to the losers match, won that, which they almost certainly would have won, then they would have faced KT and it would have been easier.
Right.
So who the fuck designed this thing? Like this is such a fatal
the weirdest
flaw.
question is this, Monty. The real rhetorical question is, who asked for this? Like, bro, we had a great format before. First of all, by the way, haven't we learned from EUL? I know people won't remember this, Yamato. EULCS once did the 2-group system. LPL did it. It never works because actually one of the other things about doing this system is you can't know before you do the groups how good the teams are. So you almost inevitably make an unfair group and a not that bad group.
Yeah.
And so especially when you let like first place go directly to certain spots, you're also going to end up with wacky stuff. I've always thought the benefit of the league systems we've had so far is they're just one giant group. Like you play everyone, and then it's just who did better in the league.
It's just a tricky thing, right? It's like the winter split is so compact. They don't have any time to do like the round robin. It's like that side I don't mind too much. It is weird that in terms of like the determined seeding is based off of like some results of last year, which was Genji How Alive, which kind of worked out in some sense. But also the fact that T1 in the end also, like when they could pick a team, they chose FearX that went 0-5, where they could have chosen like Nongshim or like KT or anything. So that also makes it like an additional layer of weird. Like for me as well, it's like I don't know why there was such a big break between the games because they could have added another round. Just if that was
Because
just double
it was Lunar New
elimination.
Year. It was Lunar New Year in Asia. That's why. It's like a
Yeah,
national
that part is
holiday.
okay, but still there was like a big gap, like 5 days, no games, just slot them in there, like no problem. And then I think if there was a double elimination coming into, of course, the second round, I feel like everything would have been settled, because that would be like what, 2-3 more matches, and then it would have been okay as well, I think.
You know, technically, Monty, the Lunar New Year break is the LCK's werewolf break,
That's true.
which is quite fitting, really, if you think about it.
I
Shout
need
out
an
my
explanation.
country.
What does this mean, bro?
You have to look up the LFN Culture Channel episode called "The Beast Must Die," which is about like a sort of cult horror movie, and you'll find out it's worth watching just for Richard Lewis's explanation of what a werewolf break is. Just check it out. There you
All
go.
right.
Cross promotion.
That's true. It's become a joke on our show Foreplay over on the Culture Channel.
I
The
actually did
werewolf
that
break.
joke. I told you in my Reckless video. I said like something like his werewolf break or something at one point in time. Whatever. I weaved it in there, so I'm trying to seed it all out. What is a werewolf break? Yeah, I'm going to get everyone to watch that episode. And he's on 50K views.
Don't watch that movie though. That movie is shit.
It wasn't great, but here's the thing: it wasn't terrible either. It was sort of like a weird oddity. Anyway, speaking of weird oddities, back to the LC Cup format. Because I agree, Monty. What's made this also age like absolute ass is, well, now Hanwha Life might just be the best team, and so because they win up against everyone in Game 5 and it's messy, maybe T1 actually is still the second best. We don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll never know now. That's the worst thing, because they finished 5th to 6th or whatever. They've actually low-key, no joke, Monty, ruined the playoffs. The reason being because I still have to watch fucking Nongshim play Genji. I don't want to see that. I want to see T1 play Genji, obviously. Not Nongshim.
Also, I also hate, for the reason that even though it annoys me to hear all the T1 fanboys say, well, they've never finished below 4th place with this roster.
Sure.
Like, they don't deserve to get owned by seeding like this. This is the lamest way they could have finished.
No, the fans do, but T1
that.
don't. I agree. T1, the team, doesn't, but the fans, they do sort of deserve that look. They deserve a few of those, like, upset 10th place finishes, you know, just to humble them a little bit, keep them down, you know, fucking chill out, homie. Listen, little bro, chill for me, okay? They need that fucking Ronaldo karma.
On the flip side, at least though, Hanwha Life have the biggest path of resistance. They're like undisputed, you know. Like, they had to beat T1, they beat Dplus, and most likely to beat Genji.
It's crazy, you know. I know what the fuck.
There's always Hanwha Life just have to face, you know, the tough teams.
And you know the craziest thing, actually, let's just segue into that. Let's talk about this series we just saw then of the Dplus one. Because, bro, as they pointed out on the broadcast, right, if you look at some of those names, like, people historically obviously thought of Zika as a fraud even when he won Worlds. And then you look at people like Peanut and old Zeers before he won Worlds, they were the chokers. Bro, if you don't know, Zika, since like 2022, wins every Game 5. Bro, they're all like the Game 5 clutchers now. These are like the fucking clutch kings. It's great. I even was watching that game. And by the way, I had the bet on bloody Dplus. I was loving that Game 5 until it just got turned around completely. But what asked me, actually, you know, everyone says every 5-game series is a banger. Most of them aren't. Usually there's 2 like stomps, or someone just fucks up a draft. And in fairness, obviously, you can just int the draft. The actual gameplay in these matches, I won't say it was high level, but it was really fucking entertaining. Like, the amount of turns, re-engages, and some of the team fights, by the way, are fucking unbelievable. You can't even possibly know who's going to win as it's engaged initially. This actually was a very entertaining series. It delivered.
Fucking battle with this goofball, you know, Game 5. Only he can get away with it, you know.
Cackling, literally. As he's just doing mad shit. It's mad.
Like, I don't know, like that Poppy game where he like drifted between turrets after killing Sejuani on red, and then in this Game 5 he drops the electrocute and buys Protobell on Alistar. I'm like, what the hell is he building? But then he does like the game-winning play where he like just combos in, survives with 1 HP. I'm like, barrel, base, and then he just doesn't base, gets a combo in again, flashes on MF under the turret. It's just, he's such a, I don't know. It's just, the moment you doubt him the most, he just comes back and then buys you in again. And then you get to hear all these comments like, I told you, Yamato, Barrel's the GOAT. He's the greatest player of the 2020s. Like, he's just so fantastic. Why don't you love him? You're just a hater, Yamato. I was like, no, all the games. I go insane watching Barrel. Fucking hell.
The thing is that, I mean, I said this with this Dplus roster, which is that Beryl is the only way that they could have ever fixed this, because they needed somebody who actually was proactive and who is willing to go in and make the calls and fix the shot calling that they have struggled for years to resolve on this team. And obviously bringing in a rookie top laner, Shu has done great, don't get me wrong, but he's not going to provide that. So I think Beryl being in here has really done a lot for Dplus, and, you know, it showed. I think he's the kind of just like actual instigator that they need on this roster because everybody else is too passive and is just gonna. But they're willing to follow somebody in, which I think
Think
is
about
is
last
fun.
year's team. Like the reason why the joke was, it's one of the reasons I'll personally never rate FlyQuest that much, because you couldn't beat Dplus. Where was your wonderful macro then, Blippo? The joke was that team was giving out free wins from the mid game onwards to anyone Asian. But I tell you what, FlyQuest couldn't fucking buy one, mate. So the craziest thing is that the reason that team used to suck was in LCK it was okay because actually aiming would just carry a team fight at the end of the game and win you the game. But from playoffs and worlds, they could never win against anyone. The difference is, as you're saying, like the angles they're finding now from Beryl are just legit, mate. And by the way, the Siwoo guy, Kingham wasn't bad last summer. This guy's a mad upgrade. He's just so fucking dynamic. He's got no fear. He plays right on the edge of his mechanics. Like I've seen loads of people try playing the Ambassador. It's looked way sicker, mate. He was fucking balling on that shit. Like you'd never know this was a rookie. He was fucking really good.
Well, I also think
He's not a
Lucid's
rookie
been unlocked.
technically, but yeah.
Lucid's been unlocked too because now he can actually play carry champs as opposed to him just being a Sejuani bot last year. So I think these changes have really helped out the roster, right? And Barrel's more the engage and like tank supports. So it's
Holy
helpful.
shit, he actually is 17, Monty. He actually is 17 years old, Siwoo. How is that real? And
Crazy,
also, even though it's pure coincidence because he does actually have a Korean name, that just sounds so on the nose of like Ziwoo from fucking CS as well. Like all he has to do is get sick, guys, and that's going to become a thing. People are going to start saying that shit, you know.
I have to add as well, though, like I legit think Lucid has been the best performing jungler worldwide.
Smurfing,
Like
man.
I don't think like in terms of how well he plays, mechanically he's just so insane. Like that Viego game was insanely difficult to play, but they managed to pull it through. Like his Lilia's insane, his Nidalee's insane, just plays everything insanely good. Like even this Wukong game that he played, like he's just like in a world where like all these other junglers that are like the GOAT status are underperforming, like Canyon and even Peanut, right? It's like Peanut is getting away with some horrific things on this How I Live roster. And it's like looking over in LPL is a little bit of a mess, you know. Tarzan might be in the conversation, maybe some Kanavi, but it's like they're not even in playoffs yet. So who the fuck cares about LPL, you know? It's like Lucid right now has just been performing so damn good, and it feels good to see that Showmaker is back, because I think before playoffs as well, I would argue that he was just like the most consistent millionaire in the league. It's like Faker dropped off in the last best of 5 they played, and Zeka was not really awake before these last 2 best of 5s. So happy to see, you know, the recovery of Showmaker and Lucid performing as good as he is, because it's like him joining in for Canyon last year, like those are like the biggest shoes to fill, and to see that like the steady growth is just a fantastic storyline. I just love watching Lucid play.
By the way, on the Showmaker angle, that is even where I'm on some like Jumanji meme shit of like, wait a minute. So the best mids in the world are Doinb and Showmaker. What fucking year is it? What, did I go back in time or something like 5 years? This is mental. What? It's kind of true.
Is Doinb good again? I haven't seen any LPL.
You have to understand, the NIP roster isn't even that good, Monty. He is just he smurfs every game. It's and by the way, you know, you'd think if you had the time off, the one thing you wouldn't have the champion pool. He's the god in Fearless Draft. It's actually a joke, mate. I'm not joking. He's better than he ever was. I don't even know how that makes sense, mate. He's better than when he won Worlds, but that way. You'd have to look at some. Look, wait for the playoffs, but it's fucking crazy, bro. Like if he does anything deep in the playoffs, this split, he is just a god, mate. Like I'm even just gonna bow down at that point. I give it up to him. He's too
He's just shaping the meta too. Like he pulled out the Pantheon mid, and then Showmaker played Rise. Now it's showing up everywhere. It's just, I don't know. My man is married, has kids. Just kept streaming, co-streaming, shouting. Didn't play. Coached like a shit team in Rare Atom for some reason, or Ultra Prime, whatever the fuck it was. And then he comes back, you know, after 2-3 years of not playing, and it's just this good. Just takes a big dump on Rookie. You know, it just hurts my soul, man. It really hurts my soul.
Also,
like you say, what year is it? But the Rookie is not performing. That's the only part of this year. It's a different timeline.
Also, all those fucks that are always like, oh, he's a kid now. Now we'll have to retire and take it up. Mate, he's come back like, I'm sonning the whole fucking scene, homie. This is my region. Like, exactly. This guy doesn't give a fuck, mate. By the way, you are aware, it's only early on you have to be there all the time with the kid. After that, they actually are just like a fucking other human being who does other things during the day and stuff. You can
just put them outside. Just let them explore.
If you have millions of dollars, it turns out you can hire a lot of childcare.
Especially in China.
Especially in China.
He's probably balling. He probably lives in a fucking mansion with armed guards just to make sure fucking Tian doesn't come anywhere near the building again and ruin his career.
I mean, I love this. Here's the thing, guys. I don't understand this angle as somebody with kids. Like, think about this. NBA players or Major League Baseball players play 162 whatever games a year.
yeah.
Half of them are them flying somewhere else. How do they have kids? It turns out you can with enough money.
Yes.
With enough money, it's
I mean, I believe
possible,
Elon Musk
right?
is proving that at the moment, right now, believe it or not. So, you know, this guy's fucking, he's spawning units like fucking StarCraft 2 or something.
Yeah,
This fucking
exactly.
production
Are you-
sick, innit? I know. While he's
are
still
you
recording
actually
at
a
the same
dad?
time.
Are you actually a dad, or are you just paying people to be the dad? That's the real question. But you know, your kids get raised in relative opulence. So I'm just saying, like, a lot of professional athletes can manage it despite extremely full schedules and still be elite level athletes. So it's
by the
definitely
way,
possible.
That even sounds like the name of an LPL team, Relative Opulence. I'd be a fan of that team. That's straight fire. Obviously, the joke would be the actual like mascot would just be Imp wearing that like $5,000 fucking shirt he wore to that LCK season 5 summer. All the references here, they're all 10 years old. But the joke is, I'm such a boomer now, Yamato. My own references in esports are to 10 years ago, but of my own shit in esports. Like, that's how bad it's gotten now.
I remember that shirt.
Let's go back. Because here's the thing. Bro, right now, the real question has to be asked. Like, when they were having those Rocky series, Hanwha Life, you had to go like, these are close series, they're messy. Bro, at the moment, like, they actually do just win every single fucking game fight. But they are the best team in League of Legends. Like, I tell you what, the Fearless Draft has produced some messy games for them, but they keep getting to the end of the series somehow with picks. So I've got to give it to, like, I've all wanted to laugh at Hanwha really early on because of the Zers thing, because obviously every T1 fan was getting ready with the placard, like, the fucking going to draw the hangman around him or something. Bro, it actually is an upgrade. This team is actually, now that Zika's got his shit together, this team is smurfing. And as you say, by the way, we're not even saying Peanut's like the best. He's not even close. He's fucking having loads of crazy games. It just doesn't matter. They just win anyway.
Delight has also been very good, to be fair.
Yeah. I think it was straight like MVP. The previous series that they played, like Duro didn't have anything to say about Delight. What a machine! Zeka's back, as you mentioned. Like it's so crazy because it's like Hanwha story is like the reverse of what I expected. I thought they're gonna hit the ground running, play really really good in the beginning, and then like T1 Genji maybe like be better in like Fearless. But now it's like Zeus is just such a tremendous weapon, and they find ways to still piece it kind of together. It's like they saved the game 5 with an Olaf pick that was just so tremendous that people need to start kind of be in tune with this idea that this Olaf is coming out, and maybe not invest so many bands into Peanut when you're so deep into the series.
Olaf pick.
Yeah,
the T1 game as well.
I just completely 1v9'd it. That's like Zeus. The Zeus gambit is paying off. Viper, like today, that Ezreal game from Viper, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was like one of the worst Viper performances I've ever seen. But then he just steps up big, you know. He just shook it off, and you could see like my main criticism always, like not my main criticism, but I'm focused on the gameplay of aiming because there's a lot to critique him about. In terms of his gameplay, my main criticism for his gameplay is like he's always been good in earlier seasons, but always when it comes to like deeper, he always falls short. Like when I saw him on that Koki lose double sums against Aatrox in swap scenario, I'm like, ooh, I've seen this way too many times with aiming. So it's like he just doesn't seem to, you know, be able to push it over the finish line ever. You know, he's always been close. He's always looked good. He's always in the conversation. Ooh, aiming is good, top 3. But then it's just flaccid.
Okay, it also sounds like another name of a Dplus player, but flaccid. Okay.
That's a Team Heretics AD.
Okay.
Which format do we go to now? Do we go LTA?
Sure. I mean, look, I think a lot's already been said about the LTA format, but I mean, I'm just waiting for the inevitable, guys, which is the wow, our viewership is so good post, even though, of course, now they're going to be combining regions. And are they going to get anywhere close to the combined viewership of the previously? No, of course not. Also, I think you're going to hit the point where viewership is actually going to go down in the semis and finals, which is actually what you don't want. But the question becomes, okay, so we had these 4 matchups between LTA North and South, and none of the LTA South teams even got into the semifinals, which is a fucking disaster. So how does this act? Like, is the questions are this: is there actually enough meaningful cross competition? Because there's no losers bracket. They meet now, they don't play in spring, and then LTA North and South play again in summer. And my question is, like, how is this one league when they play a handful of games against each other every year, and it's only in winter, 4 games minimum, four best of threes minimum, and then in summer when they meet for the chance to go to Worlds? Like, why did we have to rebrand both of them LTA North and South instead of just having LCS and CBLOL and then just having this combined bracket? It feels like you lose all of the brand equity that you've built up, but because you want to create one league, but it doesn't feel like one league at all.
No, by the way, there's 2 things here. I'll do the same logic again. I just why do leagues with 2 different groups when it doesn't make any sense? Just make one group. I actually thought that's what we discussed all those years when we thought it was just CBLOL, Monty. Is you don't do it this like cross-regional play. You have just the 2 groups combined, and then you combine the viewership, you combine the fan base, you combine the rivalries. Then people play against each other, people scrim against each other. But the weirdest
which is
thing
what they did in Valorant. To be clear, they've already done this in a different game.
The obvious fix here is, I'll tell you why, part 1, I'll address secondly. Keep it best of 3 like that in the early part of the playoffs, but make it double a limb. Here's why I say keep it best of 3, Monty. Because I know Riot, Monty. Let me go back in a time machine with you to 2013 when they launched the LCS. We'd already had tournaments that were double a limb, mate. MLGs were double a limb, IPL's double a limb. We had tournaments that had BO5s. In fact, obviously, OGN was already BO5 in like semis onwards, etc. But here's the reason I always thought it was so cynically obvious that they started the EU and NALCS with best of 3 until the final. Because they thought, like the NFL, you want that sort of any given Sunday vibe. You want the chance of the underdog, the upset. So when they made these regions combined, I think they were smart enough to know that if one region has millions and millions of dollars and the other one just has like not millions of dollars, that the millions of dollars one's going to be advantage. Well, we all know the BO3 gives you a better chance of winning the series. So I think they thought the BO3 was the equalizer. So you know what? You can have it, Riot. In Fearless Draft, maybe BO3 should be the equalizer. The problem is no lower bracket just ruined it, because now when your entire conference got eliminated in round 1, and that's where the rest of the tournament is, and they brought the viewership, you've checkmated yourself on that one, mate. If there was a lower bracket, you could still have more. By the way, I don't know how many times I have to explain this, Riot. More matches equals more viewership. I know that fucking blows your mind, but it does. It just does.
Also, why don't you tell them, as somebody who's from Counter-Strike, what happens when the Brazilian teams get eliminated from events in Brazil?
Well,
do they come to the arena?
It's essentially the same concept as what happens in China when there's only a Chinese audience and then the Chinese team loses. The problem is they just won't turn up to the next game. And there's actually a logic to this where you can't totally blame the fans, which is the way it works before you know what the result's going to be is obviously if your team goes to the finals, you want to have tickets for all the days, don't you? So you buy all the days. They even usually give you a cheaper price to buy all the tickets for the days. And then what happens is when your team gets eliminated on day 1, and in fact, if all Brazilian or all South American teams get eliminated, you're just going to go, I'm not going to bother going. And either if you can sell your ticket, you sell your ticket, or you just don't. And unfortunately, you can actually have venues, it's happened in Counter-Strike many times, where it is sold out, but it still looks like there's half the people there because like the Brazilian best team got knocked out. And so they were like, I'm not going to bother going. So it's actually a flaw again. This is about event management and how do you sell the tickets and it's super complicated stuff. But yeah, sadly, that's also clearly like egg on their face as well, Monty, because the dream here was at least one like the obvious one should have been Loud, mate, just because it's the Brazilian one in it. The dream would be that Loud at least made the semis, you know? The fact that they don't means you've almost made... Like, I actually think you're right. You might just even in the fucking... what the stage looks like and all that shit. It might just be trash now.
Additionally, it's like talking to... Like, I spoke to figures in the Brazilian community last year to understand, like, the implications of everything. And it's like they don't even get to have their matchups played out. They don't even get to determine, anything really. It's like It's like they don't even get their matchups played out. They don't get their own storylines because it's like the Brazil fan base was very well aware of the fact that they're not a region that is good enough to compete internationally. They didn't give a shit about this. It's like they laughed at their own team and said, "Oh, our macro is shit," but this is our macro. It's like we love our storylines because. In terms of the passion, it's like in terms of how they deliver it through just the aggression in terms of them standing up and shouting shit, it's like everyone's bought into all of the storylines. So they killed two teams, which killed practically a lot of storylines that were in place. And at the same time, there is no conclusion here at all. It's very, very sad. So, like, I think from Brazil's standpoint, it's like almost did everyone a favor by letting he just almost let Isurus go through, and we had Latam in, but there were too many powerful forces at play. Even Umti on his worst. It's best of three, so it's obviously it's worse.
That would have been even worse because actually they're not that's the Argentinian teams. That would be even worse. Now you just let the Argentinians go through, but no one's going to turn up. No one's going to be in that venue.
And it's like, bro, the follow up even, in spring they're playing BO1s again. What are we doing? What a regression. It's like you have 8 teams, so you have the benefit of having less show days, and you can just do 2 best of 3 days, and that's like, God bless, you have 8 teams. Now they go back to BO1s again in spring. You're in a position where there's only like 2 MSI slots, right? You only get 1 from North America. So competitively also that feels like shit if you're in North America. I know that Mark said that this is something that teams wanted because they wanted to be on the show both days because that would benefit them. But I don't know, man. Just stream your scrims. Just stream your scrims.
The new meta. There's also ways they could have made this more interesting. Like if they want to make it a Mickey Mouse match, why not just do what they did at Esports World Cup and just put all the North teams on one side of the bracket and all the South teams on the other side of the bracket, right? You could even swap teams for the semifinals. You could cross over the bracket and put the lower seeded team that qualifies for semis from North and South, have them flip brackets. So you have like number 1 LTA versus number 2, or number 1 North versus number 2 South, number 1 North versus, or number 1 South versus number 2 North, right? There's ways you can do this to ensure that there is some level of participation from the Brazilians or LTA South in the actual semifinals. It's just, the question becomes, with such little cross-pollination, how does the Brazilian scene actually get good enough to beat LTA North teams? And that's my question. When they meet at the end of summer, which, by the way, the teams that get eliminated, they just go home, they go on vacation. They're not going to keep practicing, right? And then we get a whole nother year, and Riot's making all these changes. Everybody has to relearn the game again. So it doesn't actually help them to have scrims if they're not actually qualifying. One of them will be guaranteed to qualify for Worlds, but the most of them, it won't make a difference. And here, it's like they have this short little mini tournament. They're there for a couple weeks. They get some scrims, but is that enough to make them good? Are they even scrimming each other? Maybe the LTA North teams are just only scrimming each other, right? And now that all the South teams have been eliminated, are any of the South teams even practicing? Right? Are they even scrimming anymore?
The roughest part, right, is it's just such a logistical nightmare because even as the regions are active, they can't scrim each other. The ping difference is just way too big, so there is no like cross play in terms of practice. It's like if there was no logistical nightmare at all, like what I would want to do is like create a scenario where it's like you mix it, right? It's like after the seeding, you just put like the lower end North American teams, you put them in Brazil, and you take like the stronger teams. So you just like eventually get to a point where you get like all the strong teams in one place. But I understand, of course, like the logistical nightmare of this in terms of like setting up offices and all that jazz. But that would be like the ideal in the end, that it's like, oh, these bad teams in North America, let's send them over there and see how they do, and let's bring over like the strong teams with the fan bases, because I think in the end, eventually we're going to get to that point where it's going to be just one league. They're going to take the biggest names, the biggest teams, and then there's just going to be like one league, and then all these teams that are at the bottom just fuck off, because it seems like teams don't want to participate anyway. We have guest teams and shit.
Yeah. 2 things. One, that is actually literally how Brazilians got good in Counter-Strike. Before they were good, they moved to LA, went into houses there and practiced the NA teams who were better at the time, and then leveled their game up. And eventually it just became the thing that a lot of people don't know. It wasn't just Luminosity. There were like 2 or 3 Brazilian teams that were all doing that, and they were all grinding out. And that was what you did. Once you sort of got to the top of the Brazilian scene, then you moved to LA and you joined this thing, and that let you get into the international market. In fact, you could even play in the NA region. And so first of all, I do think inevitably that should be a thing. Secondly, The other reason why this playoff format sucks so hard is because, as you just said, Yamato, you eliminated all the bad teams before crossing the regions. So you've now made fans actually think LTA North just clears. No, I'll tell you right now, you take those bottom fucking LTA North teams and have them play a game against the best teams from LTSL. Some of them would have lost. They would actually have been beaten. Like, and some of those teams were not fucking good. Some of them had dodgy ass rosters, but you didn't even give them a chance to get like those wins. And by the way, those wins are important. Those are like confidence builders. You like know that we can play against them. The meta makes that they're not unbeatable. But you didn't get that. You just took the absolute best. And remember, we've got the absolute 4 best teams here. You just took them. Most of them are even experienced and have like world's fucking experience and shit. And then you just put them against these teams. And then Peter Dunn even told me, because remember, he's a sort of lunatic that like core streams fucking LTA South, not even the North one, and watches and actually really go, oh, cheers for them all, because he's so optimistic, obviously. He even says that, believe it or not, it's almost the worst bracket draw. And like if he could just like change around which South team plays which North, you could have had an upset. But like these were almost like the exact wrong ones to play against the best LTA North team. So you also would never have gotten the upset, unfortunately.
Yeah, and maybe it's just unlucky, but my question to people is that have North American teams playing at international events intermittently made North American teams as good as Chinese or Korean teams? No. So why would meeting 2 times a year for a bracket make Brazilian teams as good as LTA North teams? And to your point, Thor, not only about Counter-Strike, but look at Valorant. The Brazilian teams are highly competitive in Valorant because they're in the same place playing with no ping and actually practicing. I've said this example a million times. The same thing happened with Overwatch League. When the players all got together in LA, the Koreans were still very good, but mixed rosters of Korean and Western players started to actually win titles in Overwatch League. And the Western players got better and stepped up to the level of Korean players when it came to Overwatch. Were there still more good Korean players? Yes. But it was a significantly smaller difference. And there were elite world-class Western players. And we're seeing that in Valorant. North American scene is very, very strong in Valorant, and part of that, I think, is the mixture of the Brazilian and the North American players playing against each other and practicing against each other constantly. So, I mean, I just don't understand the purpose of this, because like it just feels like, okay, maybe there's occasionally an upset, but it's a quarterfinal upset. Is it ever a semifinal upset? Probably not. Is it ever a finals upset? Almost certainly not, right? So how does this actually improve things? How does this make Brazil more fun to watch? Because now it just feels like, at the end of winter, we just get shit stomped. And now we can just hibernate until the end of summer when one of our teams will go to Worlds guaranteed, even if they're terrible, even if they get eliminated early in the playoffs. As long as they make it the furthest, they're the one that's going. I mean, it's not a good feeling, right? There's almost no level of delusion that can sustain you if the 5th, 6th best team going to in the LTA playoffs is the one representing Brazil at Worlds. Like, you can't even get further than that. How do you have any hope at Worlds?
By the way, I will say the only condition in which they could ever do anything from the South in theory is you need the right Korean or something like that, since they do the imports. I'll tell you a very quick sidebar story, and this is going to be, and actually I very rarely ever do, this is going to be a tale from my life, Yamato Cannon, as a younger man. So what happens is, do you remember back in the day, in the 90s, there was a classic one-hit wonder, and it was called The One and Only by a guy called Chesney Hawkins. It went, I am the one and only. Anyway, you might remember it was actually the reason why Heaton in CS had that nickname, because someone put that music on that 1v5 he did against 4 Kings on Aztec back in the day at CPL. So anyway, this guy, that one song was literally like a one-hit wonder. Like if you were at any jukebox for like 20 years, it'd be in there. Everyone loved to like hear it if you like classic hits or whatever. But that guy had no career beyond that. Like I don't know if he ever did an album. No one ever fucking heard from this guy. It's one of those guys where you have one song and that's it. And all you need to know is like something like 10 plus years later, when I was a student, when you go along and you see there's a night with like all tribute bands, and it'll be like the Rumbling Stones or like Led Zeppelin or whatever, and it's always like, oh, that's just the tribute band player. His name was on the flyer, but it wasn't like a tribute, it was just him. And it was like, wait a minute, and I was looking, and it wasn't even like a concert. You didn't have to like pay anything extra. It was like normal like cover charge of like drink one drink, and this guy's gonna like play a gig. And by the way, so obviously we were like, what the That guy's played here. That's how badly his career had gone, the 10 years, by the way. He's now just doing like local student venues in the UK, doing that fucking song still. And by the way, when we went to this night, like, we've got to go to this. Obviously, we just did the obnoxious shit where the whole time everyone's just like, I don't even know this song. Play the one and only, mate. Play that song, the one and only. So anyway, this is all to say, and this is so self-indulgent, but that's what this show's about. This is all to say, when I was watching these playoffs, I was getting ready to power up. Everyone's telling me, oh, which ones are good in the South? I don't watch LTA South. I'm not Peter Dunn. I start watching and I go, Winsome plays for fucking Loud. Winsome. That Winsome. The fucking Cloud9 LS Winsome. This motherfucker is still alive and playing games. Like, holy, that's like Chesley Hawks level shit. Holy, he's still out there, bro. He's still out there trying to do it. And you know what, Monty? He still plays his classic, the Int. Whatever. It wasn't even worth it, that punchline. I don't give a shit, bro. That's who I am.
Too good.
Hit segment for Winston. There you go. Fuck off. Well, he has second gear. He went to South America, so all right, fair play, mate. You left the continent.
Shit. Yeah. I thought you're bringing some angle like, there was this one time where Brazil upset EDG or some shit, 2016. Yeah, the roster. I don't even remember what they're called anymore, but
that was INTZ. That was Peter Dunn. And then before that was the Kaboom Alliance one. Yeah, it's true. Those did happen.
But yeah, it just feels so bad to watch this because prior to the playoffs, like LTA viewership was a lot lower than it was last year, particularly in like average concurrent viewers. And even then, I mean, Riot keeps pulling new tricks, man. The only reason it was close, like it wasn't even that close, but the only reason it was like moderately respectable was because Moist, Critical, and Ludwig were co-streaming. I mean, how many more people, like co-streamers, can they sucker into, like streaming celebrities, can they sucker into the LTA? Because that's the real question, right? Yeah. We've seen LEC without Ibai, drop in terms of average concurrent viewership. They're just so reliant on having the next like big gaming personality in general gaming come over and like prop up their garbage viewership. And I just, eventually you're just going to run out of that, right? That can't be a viable long-term strategy. I can't imagine that Moist and Ludwig are going to long-term co-stream this, right? It's just not going to happen.
Especially not with this roster. That's not happening.
The joke is, I even said this on Twitter, so fuck it. A spoiler, crazy concept. I don't really fuck with that Ludwig guy. When I watch those people, I'm just like, I don't even get what the personality people are like of these people. Is it just like some dickhead from an American high school 15 years ago? Like, it's not even like, there's nothing interesting. He's not trying, he doesn't have funny stories. They're just people who turn on, it's like some weird reality TV series shit. Like, they just turn on the stream and people go, oh my God, what do you think? About this, obviously, Moist Critical. What do you think, Charlie, about politics and that? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Why are you asking him? He's a fucking streamer. So anyway, the Ludwig guy even tries to do that thing that I hate, where you do dunks, but in this analogy, you're like fucking LeBron James's son, but in this scenario, all the LeBron fans go, great dunk, Ludwig. Oh, fucking, he barely got it over the rim. Like, because if you have 1 billion fans, you get the ratio anyway. Bro, he does Twitter dunks that don't even make sense. He just dunked very recently on Cloud9, and his dunk was something like, enjoy all that Saudi money. And it's like, you just bought into Shopify Rebellion, who goes to Saudi tournaments, you fucking dickhead. Yep. Your own org, by that logic, is being subsidized by Saudi money. And if your implication by Saudi money, my friend, is they cut people's heads off and put them in prison, what are you telling on yourself for, you moron? That tells me you don't even follow what your own org does. You don't even know what esports World Cup is, do you? Doublelift, like, he was in there too, but we'll make that one for a different episode. I just don't get it, mate. I don't get what the angle is. Like, why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? Get the fuck out.
Yeah, and also, like, certainly Shopify Rebellion is angling for esports World Cup partnership, right? They have Dota teams. They've been a very famous StarCraft. I mean, StarCraft hasn't been announced yet at ESWC. In fact, I mean, that's an entirely different issue in esports, but there haven't been any StarCraft 2 tournaments announced in like 6 months, which is fucking wild.
Which is like, hilarious, because remember, ESL were the ones actually looking after that circuit, and they've done quite a good job the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah, so there have been no ESL events, no Esports World Cup, no GSL,
We don't
which has
talk
been
about
running.
GSL now, Monty. You have to understand, I'm not joking. GSL prize money would shock you if you look it up. And
I
it's
know,
something like a
I know.
4-day tournament now or something. It's really sad how that's just
But I mean,
dwindled
it
over
doesn't
the years.
exist. Like
Oh, it's
there's
wild.
literally nothing on the
Yeah.
StarCraft calendar. So anyway, Shopify has supported StarCraft because the CEO of Shopify itself is a StarCraft fan. He's an OG like
Right.
esports StarCraft fan. So he was, personally interested in supporting the StarCraft scene. But yeah, I mean, you have to imagine that Shopify Rebellion, with the way that they are turning into a multi esports org, like every other multi esports org, they also probably are angling for esports World Cup partnership because it comes with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of
course.
dollars. And they play a lot of the games. They're in Valorant, they're in Dota. I don't know if Halo was at Esports World Cup last year. They're in Halo, obviously in League of Legends. They're in Apex, they're in Rainbow Six. These are all games that have been around the Esports World Cup. Street Fighter as well. So, yeah, I mean, they better be hoping for it, because the thing is, especially in Dota, because the Riyadh Major takes place there, if you are not part of the Esports World Cup, you can actually just get entirely fucked, because you just won't get good Dota players to join your org, because it's such a big deal to be a part of it. That's why none of the orgs, the big orgs, when everybody was like getting mad at them, could say no, because if I'm sure many of them wanted to, but if you are a big org and you say no, then players literally won't sign with you, because you're cutting them off of potential millions of dollars in prize pool revenue. So it becomes very, very difficult to say no, because the players want to go, and the players won't sign contracts with your team, and then you fade into irrelevance as an org. So they really did have all of the power in those negotiations, and could force the orgs in order to do that. So
By the way,
anyway,
the other detail that ties into what you're talking about too is, as of right this moment, I told you about all this. I'm doing it half for the narrative, and also because, to be fair, they have shown some things in their games. The joke is, I really want Monty 100 Thieves to win this LTA split, because I love the idea that the team that you let leave the league, you essentially paid them to leave the league, then they get to come back as a guest, then they win the split, then they go to the first stand, and then you have to be like, and welcome back, the guest. It's like, the guest runs your house at this point. It's like the guest fucking your wife, or bent over the kitchen table eating your chicken, motherfucker, and you're just like, anything left for tea? Nah, sorry, just fucking, I think there's like a ready meal in the fridge or whatever. This guy's
there's the chair in
taking
the
over.
corner.
Exactly. It's mental, isn't it? And by the way, all I'll say is this, Monty. Even though, yes, in theory, the other teams should want 100 Thieves in, because they do bring like a decent amount of money in, some good players, stuff. So you want like the league to be good. I am pissed off if I'm the teams that didn't get paid to leave and come back as a guest. If they just get to come back and win everything, like, what is this? What am I doing at this point in time? What is this?
But you see, Thorin, the teams that stayed own very valuable franchise
Right.
slots
Yeah.
that will definitely be
Right.
sold for significant sums of money one day, and
Yeah.
increase in value.
That's like my Flashpoint stock that I got as a reward for
Exactly.
working all those extra hours. That definitely was better than real money.
At least they didn't pay
Never
$10
abused
million
real money.
for it.
True. True.
At least you didn't pay $10 million for it. But yeah, I mean, what do you say at this point? Like, this is the LTA format was kind of a desperation play. It did to, what will be touted is they will say, wow, LTA playoffs is better than it has a higher peak and average concurrent than LCS did last year, adding in no context that they combined two leagues together to make this product. I mean, I don't understand why people don't get more mad about the bullshit viewership that LCS spins out every year.
I actually saw these were real comments, not from randoms, like upvoted comments on Reddit, which is when they were complaining. By the way, here's how the brains work now of people who are in Western League of Legends. They didn't themselves watch the format and go, what the fuck? They waited until the semis. Then when Cadrill mentioned on his stream the format's fucked, they're like, hey, what the fuck's going on with the format? It's like, if you only found out now, you didn't watch the league. Like, that's just obvious. Think it through. What you did is one of your gods told you, like, attack my minions. And then you're like, okay, like fucking Zerglings over the edge of the cliff or something. Like, so in this scenario, that's what made you get mad. And I actually saw people go, why did they even combine the regions? They should have just left it LCS, because Mark Z's, they didn't put administration, but I'll put that just to be funny. Mark Z's administration had the viewership going up. Because remember, Monty, we're actually not even doing a sport now. We're doing American politics, where when you take over with your regime, what you do is, say, for example, the jobs market's down. You just go, create 200,000 government jobs and use taxpayer money. And you go, I've actually increased the job market. And under me, we're headed towards a prosperous future in which everyone will have a job. And it's like, what they don't seem to get is when you've already tanked it to the maximum amount, a tiny upswing isn't like a monumental change. So that is a real thing, Monty. That is the new angle. The joke is we don't watch the games or enjoy world-class North American League of Legends. We just go, check out this ES charts graph, though. Instead of bragging about a Doublelift penta or how good we're going to do at Worlds, we're just going, check out ES charts, though. Look at that. when we cook the numbers, it's slightly higher. Yeah, that's us. We're NA, baby. High numbers, everything.
When we compare this year to the one league last year, instead of being honest about how it was combined, I also just love the Mark Z paradox where he can apparently do no wrong, which is hilarious. I mean, look, let's be clear. Mark Z can't do any wrong because he has no power or authority within his position. His commissioner job name is bullshit. He is a product manager that makes no decisions, has no, as far as I can tell, no direct reports. And
if anything, he's not a commissioner, he's the commissioned.
Yeah, he is.
They pay him and tell him what to do. So
I think they ask him what he thinks about stuff and then don't do it. But I just love how last year it was like, wow,
so
Mark Z's doing such a great
league,
job.
then. He just gives his opinion and then they don't do it anyway. Oh, cool. Then he finds a way to rationalize that it was good. I can see why they hired him. Perfect.
That's right. He gets on a call with a fan and you know, makes them feel important and listened to, and then nothing actually changes. But anyway, I think that for him, he got all the credit. Oh, wow. LCS doing so well last year. And then this year, it's like, damn, all those people who overruled Mark Z and who came up with this terrible format. It's like, does he or does he not have power? Please decide which one of these things it is.
Well, I think also, go on. I just want to say, like Riot, they do a good job of really abusing like attention spans. Because the crazy thing about this change was that the teams weren't even ready for it when it came through. Like the Brazilian teams had no idea this is coming.
Oh, right.
And they just found out the news. They just got like, you know, they just got kneecapped. And then it happened like right before Worlds, and then Worlds just takes over and everyone is just, attention is elsewhere. And then everything just rolls with the punches. And then it's like, the moment is just gone. It's like the moment is gone. Whatever happened, the uproar or whatever conversation happened at the time was just disappears into the wind. It's like now it comes up again because it happened, but it's like now it's like too late. And it's the same thing. It's like the things that Mark got credit for last year were things like, oh, look at that, we added Mr. Threes again. Cool. It's like, oh yeah, Mr. Threes, fuck BO1s. And it's like this year, it's like BO1s are back. So it's like, where are we at? You know, where are we at?
By the way, you're going to think I'm doing this for one of my excuses to just irreverently rant and make allusions to other things, including popular media and entertainment from when I was young, about 25 years ago. But I'm actually doing it with a serious point. I'm not even trolling, because I actually did once present this idea in CS to ESL. And by the way, they said they were interested in it, but they just never followed up on it. I unironically would take the fact that this is all about having a commissioner, and it's like Mark Z, who's a community figure, and then we all praise or blame him, depending on what happens. And at the moment, the region's trash, and we need to get like personalities involved, and we need to have drama, and we need to have back and forth and unexpected things. Here's what I would unironically do. I would take Mark Z's position. I don't know if he could actually do this. You might need to have someone else. Like, the joke is, I don't even give a fuck. Central casting, bring Reginald back for this. I would make the commissioner of the LTA like a Vince McMahon figure that appears on the broadcast, and he just comes in and wreaks havoc, and he just, you know, like one week he comes in, you know, Whipple's talking shit about how no one in the region can play. Oh yeah? What's that? Is that Mr. McMahon's music? He comes out, right? Then he comes out, oh yeah, Whippo, you think you're better than this region? Well, in order to make the playoffs this season, you have to play Team Liquid in the Cloud9 and the 100 Thieves in a row, and if you lose, you leave the region and go to the south. What the fuck? What is he doing? Oh, this is corruption. It shouldn't be allowed. And that's right, Cloud9, you're my favorites. You'll be waiting in the final for him. Like, bro, everyone will be watching. Then we can have all these bozo idiots like Tyler One just come in and randomly like fucking play a game for a team. Like, hey, I'm playing instead of fucking Winsome now. What the fuck am I doing? You could just do all this shit, bro. Because my idea was like that in CS. If you ever remember in CS 10 years ago, ESL used to do a weird event at Gamescom where they let the fans decide like who played in the next match or what the map was. was, and it was just a way to make it wacky, right? So I told them, do what I just said, just make an event where it's like Thorin versus the world or something, and you have all these top teams there, and I'm just some mad king, but it would have been a bounty format. You don't take the prize money, make it first place. You give me whatever it is, the 300k, and I just create mad challenges. So I would come out, and if there was a team, I famously was like, I had an acrimonious public relationship with the French teams because I spotted the Swedish teams, right? So then I would come out like, well, envious, you think you are better than the other teams. Let's see you play all the Swedish teams in a row. But if you win each match, you get $20,000 a match. So that's like setting them up, and then you'd put like the best team on their worst map. You'd put some shitter team on their best. Unironically, you're all thinking this is a joke. That would be way better than the product we've got now. You would all watch the fuck out of that. And if the core streamers got involved, they're all like, it's corrupt. You shouldn't be allowed to make these matches. Oh, fucking glorious. The drama. The drama, bro.
But the thing is they're trapped by the international circuit, Thorin, because now, you know, if you really could just make it in an isolation, its own thing, you could do a lot of different stuff. But because you are bound to qualify legitimate teams to international events, you can't do anything crazy, right? You just have to feed up a decade plus of cannon fodder for the Chinese and Korean to mow down. So, you know, this is what happens.
There's hope, Monty, because we do have a detail we can discuss. Doublelift's back. He's making an NALCL clear. By the way, he doesn't even get the irony is because he's too dumb and he doesn't understand second and third order effects. I don't think he understands first order effects. Doublelift, remember, was the one who joined a boycott that they said we have to protect the positions of these academy teams. Then when he realized, wait, fuck, you mean I don't get paid and there's no worlds if this shit goes through? Well, fuck that. I'm just going to int it on stream. Somewhat appropriately, he entered it on stream, ruined the whole thing. My favorite detail I'll never get over was that one where he himself read out, like, look, guys, you're all saying that, like, the fucking, I can't remember his name now. What was the name of the guy who did the boycott? Philip Aram, there you go. You're all saying that Philip Aram doesn't like me doing this, but he just sent me a text message saying, thanks, buddy, really appreciate your efforts. Like, and he was just reading this out loud, like, see, he appreciates, like, Doublelift, you are, holy fuck, bro, holy shit, I can't handle it. But anyway, so then after that, when he basically betrayed, he was the number one, like, turncoat within the boycott that was trying to hold strong for public opinion. Then they started the LCS up again. They did basically, a lot of people just exited NACL. It's sort of a joke league now. No one gives a fuck. No one watches it. Now he comes back and takes slots from it with a bunch of other former champions and millionaires of the LCS. Like, hey guys, you know, before there wasn't enough spots for like paid teams in the NACL. There's even less now because we're here. Lol. And then even does a video before one game's played going, but I'm not really trying. This is just for fun and to get streaming numbers. Like, holy shit, you're the worst person ever.
But you see, Thorin, Doublelift found out a way that Doublelift could make more money, and so Doublelift had to take that opportunity.
Okay. What's sad is, once he says that is how he thinks in his brain. He goes, yes, Doublelift could make more money, so Doublelift, you should do this. And Doublelift,
what I should say is Lena found a way that Doublelift could make more money, and so Lena told Doublelift and then contacted all of Doublelift's friends and put the team together for him.
Yes.
And we'll see how long maybe it'll last longer than his podcast did. We'll find out, I guess.
Listen, it works. That dynamic works. I've heard when she even gets him to eat like a healthy diet now. Sure, she has to do the like airplane, but I'll tell you what, he's fucking loving his crushed pears now. And by the way, one last shot across the bow to Doublelift. Is this actually a meme? Why do you still keep getting the haircut when a relative puts the ball on your head and claps around like that for $5, bro? Is that like if I just started wearing that big fur coat again or whatever? Like, what's going on, bro? Why does he wear that? He actually has like the season 1 haircut again, guys. It's fucking wilding. I don't know why he's doing it, man. You're a millionaire. Just get fucking proper haircut.
Bro, it's branding, bro. The power is in the hair, bro. He's playing again. He's have the cup, bro.
That's it. He's gone back to his old ways. True. Something is, though, unironically, just like people say about your team, your Arto and fucking Los Ratones, the problem is when you do see those names, they probably won't be that good because they're not trying properly. But I see them in LTA than some of the bad teams. Like, at least that's like a sexy roster. It's got like fucking Speaker, Biofrost. There's all a bunch of like bag of names there.
Always fun to see Doublelift play. The 100 Thieves stint was hilarious. We had the 100 Thieves Nationals, so those are like Doublelift classics. Also hear stories about how they basically like forced Busio to play a very certain way, and he was just traumatized his rookie year. And then he got freed in the next year, and now he is spreading his wings. So.
Yes.
Those
So by the way,
storylines.
we'll just reference since we brought it up anyway. I brought it up, but then I laundered it through you replying, and now since you mentioned it, Doublelift, Yamato. Also, he did, I think, the funniest of the stupid Saudi-related tweets, which is even though he has no affiliation at all, he was just a player. In 2020, when all the Neom shit was going on, he just quote tweeted and put like human rights violations hype, and then 4 years later for EWC, there's a tweet where he has the actual hashtag Esports World Cup to get in that program, Monty, where he's like something like proud to announce I'll be co-streaming all the Esports World Cup games. So as my joke said on Twitter, maybe we all misread the tweet. He actually was hyped about the human rights violations. He had to get in on it. This guy's too much.
I mean, it is, by the way, what happened was that they did, the Saudis did contact all of the major league co-streamers and try and pay them the bag. And, you know, many people who refused that.
Fair play.
And Doublelift was not. The allure of the bag was just too much for him. So, but you know, when other people are doing it,
by their absence, then who actually was legit, then right? Okay, fair play.
Yep.
Fair play.
I do want to talk as we're hitting the greatest hits on this show. I do want to talk about our old friend Mark Merrill.
He's back again too. Fucking hell.
Chief Product Officer of Riot Games, in charge of making sure that the products are good. Now, obviously, he doesn't have the powers of the CEO. He could be overruled. And the CEO, people are very angry and confused, it seems, about Riot's current monetization model, forgetting that the former CFO of Riot was magically transformed into the CEO. And they're like, wait, greedy monetization? Who could have seen this coming when the CFO was put in the CEO position? Because he's not a product guy. And Mark Merrill was the one also who went on Tyler One's stream and said, hey, man, actually, he implied that the League of Legends game leadership had become complacent and that they had made garbage and that they needed to be replaced. And now we can argue about the current state of the game, which I would say not great as a product.
Although he did trash his own org too. That was brilliant, wasn't it? I know.
Also, the monetization model has been getting a lot of scrutiny. I don't want to get Yamato into trouble here, okay, by talking too much about Mark Merrill. So I do want to let it be known that Yamato does, in fact, really love Mark Merrill. And
I've seen some of his retweets, so I'm
he used to love Mark Merrill. He actually made love to Mark Merrill. It's true. It's true. And he was. I want to make sure everybody knows he was 18 the second time. Okay. So
what is happening? You're making it worse.
I don't know why we never saw this pod as well. The obvious one is that like fucking nursery rhyme, merrily, life is but a dream. That's what I think about when I think about League of Legends and Riot.
What I'm saying is don't get mad at Yamato. This is me talking, Mark. But when basically the product of League of Legends is just getting enshittified right now. And enshittification is when we reach the death stage of a tech product, guys, where you just put more and more bullshit on it to make it worse while trying to like maximize the amount of money you're making. And a lot of this has come around because of the idea that these Hextech chests should be free and you should be getting more stuff on average, and that obviously they've moved to this gacha system and the skins and everything like that have declined in quality, where you're not actually getting custom animations or custom effects anymore. It feels like it's just being recolored or the art is done badly. And so I actually haven't seen it's been a long time since I've seen this much outrage publicly about League of Legends, and it feels like everybody is actually like highly dissatisfied by this. And I think it boils down to obviously the expense and the going after whales in this game, but also the fact that people were used to having some level of progression naturally and at least being able to unlock champions by kind of pursuing their normal play. And I will say, if you guys are angry at kind of going about what you were doing, but not actually getting rewarded for it, I would check out our sponsor, the Upside app, because you guys are going to be out there going to gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants. I actually used this app when I was back in the States. You can download it. It has extremely good reviews, guys. It's totally legit. The money comes from the affiliates that they work with, so it's not like your data or anything is getting sold. And what you do is you just download it. It's free, and you can look on it, and you can see, if you're in America, gas stations near you with discounts. You go there, you fill up your car, you check in, and then you just get cash back. It's great. You're buying these things anyway. So think of this. If you are angry about the lack of Hextech chests, go get Upside, and that will be your Hextech chests for going to all of these places you already go to. Could be grocery stores, like I said, could be restaurants that you're already purchasing from, and you can get a great deal back. So you can download the free Upside app and use promo code summoning to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. It's a great deal, obviously. That's an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas using promo code summoning. I've used this. There's really not a lot of drawbacks. There's no drawbacks, guys. You just go. Thousands and thousands and thousands of reviews are out there about this. You don't have to take our word for it. You can look around. They're not going to do anything dodgy. This isn't like the Honey app or other discount things. They literally work with these businesses to have affiliates, and that's where the money for the app comes from. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So I just check it out. But what's your take, Yamato, on the monetization of LoL? Because, like, frankly, I never gave a shit about this because I wasn't spending money on LoL. But, like, I'm just surprised at how mad people are. And it's not like the Reddit echo chamber. It's like big YouTubers in League of Legends are making videos that are getting a lot of views. So it seems like it's more widespread. And I see also on Twitter constantly these like million view like impression posts coming up from literal randoms who are mad about LoL monetization shit.
No, it's just like the mistake you should never do, right? It's like if you have a product, you give something for free, you can never take that back. And how Riot has always done when they've like made the battle passes worse or the rewards for anything worse. They've always nerfed it really, really hard in the direction, and then in response to the outrage, they're like, "Oh, we are gonna give you something back." And then it's like, "Oh, wow, they listened to us, but did they really?" They gave you, they like removed 100 in that direction, and then they gave you 20 back, and you're happy, you know? It's like I thought the Hextech chests would come back after the outrage. They would take the win, they would nerf them, but then they would just be like, "Oh, look at this, we listened to our community and just take the win." But
Yamato, I see you've never encountered a company where a CFO becomes a CEO before, because like it's actually impossible, because these people are so stupid about products, Yamato, that they just say, well, it doesn't matter what the user thinks because we're still going to do this, and it means revenue go up, you know, because they don't see the long game, right?
I see this so often. It's like it's just always the same thing. It's like everything is just short-term driven, because it's like not having rewards for being in the client for long. Like if you have somebody who doesn't spend money but he just spends time in the client, that's the whole point. Like any live service, the whole point is that you incentivize people to spend time in your game. It's like we had the conversation the last time. I don't know which episode we talked about, like Warcraft 3. The modding community kept it alive. People bought CD keys after CD keys just to play the game, and the Warcraft, like the modding team, like all the maps, etc., kept the game going. Same thing for Skyrim or Baldur's Gate 3. It's like the game keeps alive. There's incentives to, of course, be in the game. But now it's like you remove something that people have had for so long for just short-term profit. Like for me, the writing has been on the wall for a very long time, because I have always been very surprised with the fact that like League has survived in the shape that it has for so long, because getting into League is impossible. And the community always conflates numbers at the World Championship or like esports numbers with player numbers. It's like the stories of the World Championship are very, very digestible. It's like you look at the world stories, the previews, you see T1 versus Chovy. It's like, bro, like anyone that loves competition will watch that and be like, damn, this is good entertainment. And it's like those things are just not in line at all. So it's like I understand from Riot's perspective that, it's like they are making less money. I don't see how they can revitalize anything, because they're just laying off people, right? And they're just trying to save money. It's like now, it's like League of Legends is basically the caterpillar that is going to form into the butterfly in other games. It's like they are trying to milk it as much as possible to make sure that the IP is strong so they can leverage it into the next generation of games, whether that is Valorant or something that they're building, because it's like the Riot MMO. I don't know if that's going to happen because that's also a massive and very, very difficult undertaking. It's like always when you create games at this scale, like keeping up with what is concurrent is so damn difficult. So it's like always, it's like this is so reminiscent. It's like I said like 2 years ago that we have passed the Wrath of the Lich King stage of World of Warcraft, and now we've entered like Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and it's like the numbers, we're going to like feel a steady burn. And when someone like does the Pandora video, like this Hextech moment is going to be a big one. The comment from the CEO from 2 years ago, the 2025 will be the biggest League of Legends investment year, like that will be just plastered all over that video. We're gonna have like a 2-year dissection of like the lawsuit that happened and all the story of Riot things and the Hextech chest, and that will be like glorious to watch. But I love the game, I love the stories of the game, but everything around it is like, what can you really do? Because I do understand the problem. It's like, if people are not spending money, what do you really do? It's like they need to just funnel the money from League into the other things. It's like we already know how much, like for example, Arcane costs.
I don't know, Yamato. If they're really hurting for money, and you know, here's some things that I might have done instead of trying to basically strip mine my audience for every possible dollar. Okay, I'm gonna start with this one. Not chase away the lead developer of my MMO project into another MMO with his own studio, because apparently Ghostcrawler would rather fuck off, restart another MMO with ostensibly fewer resources at a startup developer. Now, sure, he owns it, but don't you think if that Riot MMO was going well, that he would have stayed and shipped that before doing his own? Yeah, something clearly is wrong. They've had to restart the entire MMO project. It's now years out. And so they need every bloody penny apparently they can get, because they've canceled all their other games, basically. I mean, they canceled Riot Forge. They've killed other games. You know, their fighting game is still coming out. The other thing, Yamato, I just might not have done is spend $250 million on Arcane. Because there's no way that Arcane makes that money back, because there's nothing to funnel Arcane fans into. They didn't create an onboarding system for League of Legends. There is no MMO to release. There isn't another game that's been released with the Riot IP.
I'll give you a free thing you could have made, Monty. I'll even give you a cynical version, not what I would do. I would make like an actual set of skins for Caitlyn and Vi or whatever, where if you play them on the same team, they have like a fucking animation like the Lovers one where they kiss. There you go. I've just been woke and I've made you millions of dollars. That's an instant sale from the Overwatch crowd, Monty. They didn't even do that. They just did the series and went, it was good, wasn't it? And it's like, well, how does it? It's like that meme, like, how does this make us money? Money? We're just making cool animes and shit. Like, what?
Well, it could make the money in the long run, but if they need, my point is that if they need money now, and the things that they're doing with League of Legends are because they need money now, then they should not have made Arcane now, period. If the things they are doing with League of Legends are not because they need money now, then why are they doing them?
It's always been the same, right? It's like everything that Riot has spent money on, esports, Arcane 2, it was supposed to be the vehicle to make people play the game and to, like, I don't know how much money they made off of esports, right? In terms of just like Chovy using a skin or whatever. I wonder how much they lost on the fact that Faker plays skinless. Like, the CFO is like just angry about that.
There was even a tweet the other day in Valorant that made me think of that, because Durka, who's one of the best Western players ever in Valorant, even did a tweet where he kept complaining, like, Riot, give me access to the skins, I can't play without them. And I almost, if it wasn't the fact it'd be rude to him, I was almost going to quote tweet it like what Riot wishes Faker was like in an alternate dimension. Because it's like, you're true. Mate, to win, especially because he makes the world skins too. Come on, bro. That's even worse. The guy who doesn't play with skins doesn't even play with his own skins.
I mean, I would not be surprised if you told me that Riot would have made $100 million more from Faker playing skins, I would honestly fucking believe you. I would believe that.
Think about all the Korean fans who would just constantly buy them all and just to be loyal. And so, by the way, if you said a percentage went to Faker as well, they make so much money. So much money, mate. So much money. I'd even have had one where it was like fucking. I'd have them all. I'd have like one where it was like a faker one where it's like you had Door's voice line. Look at the moves, or whatever. Like, I'd have all that. I'd be cynical as fuck. That's what I hate. They're so shit at even being corporate sellouts. Like if I was going to sell out, man, I'd do it with style. You know what I mean? Listen. If you're going to suck the dick, go all the way to the balls and then put them in your mouth. I don't know why I'm giving that advice. I don't even know who that advice is to. It's a metaphor. It's just a metaphor, kids.
Just swallow it like a python.
Exactly.
But I do see that angle, like of the metaphor. I do see the angle because it's like they could do announcers, they could do like banners, they could do recall animations, they could do so much. They could do so much, you know. They could really give a full experience in terms of monetization potential. Yeah.
But I just think I just think that the entire conversation is just so weird because Riot is behaving in a way as if they don't have money, but then they're doing everything else. Like it's possible that the cash has just dropped off a cliff and that they don't think they have any new money coming in soon. But for a decade, they were just rolling in billions of dollars. And I'm pretty sure League of Legends will still make billions of dollars a year. So where is all this fucking money going? Like how much money is being pumped into this MMO? Right? I mean, I can tell you that this was in, the early 2010s, but the thing about Overwatch was the reason why Overwatch cost like $500 million to make was because it was a failed MMO that then got turned into something else. So it's not that Overwatch cost $500 million. It's that they spent several $100 million trying to make this MMO, failed, and then like kind of just managed to make Overwatch out of the failure. But that also was them creating their own engine for Overwatch, which is a lot less common these days. I mean, maybe Riot's doing it, but I think most big studios just use Unreal these days, and there's very few people creating their own engine anymore. So I find that questionable. And it's like, where is this cash going, and why is it so important that now we have to dial back on all the stuff that League of Legends players and fans have been accustomed to for years? Are we really going to make that much more money, especially in Asia? So a lot of you're really just hurting Western monetization in a way, because a lot of the Hextech chests were used for people to get champions, but in PC cafes in Asia, all the champions are unlocked anyway. And maybe that's why they don't care about removing Hextech chests. They figured they could just milk some more dollars out of Americans and euros
and this is
out
just
of
the
Europeans.
joke, Monty, is that's where again some CFO guy would go, well, there you go, there's the answer. Let's put all of our funding into making LAN centers in North America, and then we'll give away the skins for everyone who plays there, which obviously just wouldn't work as the joke. Because I don't, what Monty means by that, by the way, is the kind of person who's a pencil pusher and just works with an Excel sheet. They will do stuff unironically that's just like, right, remove this thing over here that's costing all the money. It's like, sir, that was actually the product that we were making. No, just keep this thing over here that makes all the money. Yeah, so that doesn't actually, that's like a legacy product that's no longer available. Like they don't understand creative side of it, basically. Like they're supposed to just be the guys who do the finance shit. I'm with you, mate.
I just think they don't understand fan sentiment. And what's weird is that Riot, I mean, let's be clear, this has never been true of Riot, but what they love to say about themselves is we are the most player focused company in the world. That's like their motto, guys. And I don't understand how you could legitimately look at the things that they are doing as a Riot employee or as a Riot executive and say, this is player focused. And for all of Riot's faults, some of the things they've done in terms of creating value with skins or with Arcane. I mean, Arcane is a good product. There's nothing wrong with Arcane, right? I'm not saying Arcane shouldn't have been made because it's not good in its own right. I'm saying Arcane shouldn't have been made because it was a bad financial strategy. And maybe it'll be wrong when their League of Legends MMO pops the fuck off and they convinced people that the world was cool because of Arcane. And I think they did a great job world building in Arcane. It's much more convincing than the garbage lore in League of Legends. I'll tell you that. Like, nobody wants to play a fucking MMO if you just play League of Legends. If you see Arcane, you're interested in like Piltover and Zon and the, all of the immense landscapes and artwork and everything they put into is beautiful. But I think like maybe that will happen, but the MMO may never get released. And it's probably minimum 4 years from being released minimum. So what's, they're just going to keep making more animations, they said, in that time. Like, how much money are they going to dump into this thing in the hopes that the MMO pops off? And if the MMO is just another, gacha machine, are people really going to latch on to the MMO either? Because I think the thing about MMOs, and I've always hated MMOs, so I'm definitely the wrong person to talk about this, but I'll talk about it anyway, is that I think they don't mind paying the monthly fee because you have access to all this stuff, and it's like a relatively low fee for how much entertainment you get out of it on a monthly basis, and how it connects you and your friends and everything like that. But if there is a real serious gacha mechanic in an MMO, I don't know how much that like drives people away, especially Western people, from these kind of games.
And I think the most disappointing aspect was it's like Riot. It's like in terms of their position where they were just a couple of years back, I felt like they really, really mastered like the art of just like, late gratification in terms of like they captured the fan base. It's like anything Riot would do, like they would just have so much attention, very, very similar to like where Blizzard once was, right? It's like Warcraft 3 and StarCraft. It's like Diablo. They just had bangers on bangers, and then it's like they announced World of Warcraft, and they had Mr. T. It's like, what's your game? It's like in terms of how they just like everyone trusted the products they would make, and how it would just how they just had the focus of like the majority players that would play online games. And it's like in terms of how you leverage that, it's like this Hextech chess move is such a shit PR move. Because it's like we had like the 10-year announcement. We had the first like our first Arcane season was announced for the first time. There was like that trailer video where we saw like hints of like that fighting game, and it's like Valorant came out. It's like they were making like good moves. But I'm just worried. It's like what is the next good move? Because this is such a bad step in the right direction. It's like I don't know if they will foresee. Just in terms of what big of a PR disaster this is, it's like, what will be the cost of whatever future thing you'll do? Because you have lost the trust the same way Blizzard lost the trust. Is it just inevitable when you get to that size that this has to happen?
It's just the money, Yamato. Like, unfortunately, you really have to fight against the enshittification of the product. And let me give you an example from Blizzard. Now, we can say like, oh, look at the Blizzard golden age, right? That stretched from the late 90s. This was like Diablo 1, StarCraft, Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, into World of Warcraft, into, kind of up until Overwatch, honestly. StarCraft 2, whatever. StarCraft 2 is probably the worst game in that stretch, but it's fine. Whatever. It's still good. But one of the things that Blizzard realized, and this is very famous about Blizzard, is that when they started to release microtransactions in WoW, I think they released this fucking horse. And the horse made more money than StarCraft 2. And at that point, it's like, why are we even making StarCraft 2 when we can just spend 10 minutes fucking recoloring a horse or whatever? And that's where we're at with League of Legends, where maybe they're right. Maybe all of this anger will be for nothing, but it feels bigger this time. It feels like people are actually mad this time, which is surprising to me. People were fake mad about the Faker Ari skin, where it was just like a few stupid people. Like, this one seems like very widespread outside of the normal League of Legends, like ultra fan echo chambers, and it is kind of percolated into the fan base at large, which I find different.
Even though I'm not a law guy, I'll explain like a key distinction here. The Faker one, you don't have to, if you're just a fan of casual League of Legends, there is no reason you ever have to buy the Faker skin. That is just for people who are specific fans of Faker, esports, and then potentially like want a very unique Ari skin by probably the best Ari player ever. I mean, it's debatable, but he was an excellent Ari player in his career, right? The difference with the current skins they're releasing is some of these were ones that if you were super into the lore of League of Legends and have loads of champions and skins, you really, really want this skin, and now you're basically being told by Riot, like, remember how the game was free at the beginning? I'm going to milk the fuck out of you at the end if you want to complete the set, mate. If you want all the great lore skins, get them out. By the way, remember, back in the day when games like League came out, a game used to cost $50. Bro, the skin's like $250. One skin. So it's fucking milking people.
it's a maximum of $250. I mean, it's a gacha mechanic. So like you pay for like turns at the machine, and after $250, you're guaranteed to get it. But it's like, you know, extremely low drop chance. But yeah, it's shit.
But
It's
like,
unsatisfying.
like even those gacha games, right? It's like they create so many incentives for free to play players to just spend time in the game. Like, and Hextech just was that incentive. Like if they nerfed them slightly and said skins released in the last year are not going to be included in the Hextech chests, or like they did remove, like I believe like the legendary ones. I don't remember the exact names of like the tiers or whatever. They did remove some. Like if they did that lightly, more gently, they could have like gotten away with something here. I think the only win they can take is to reinstate them, because usually moments last a day and then it's like it moves on. The fact that this is lasting already a week with the attention span is really like every post. Like they made the big release of the Mordekaiser skin, right? It's supposed to be like a very huge lore point in terms of like the roots of Noxus, like Mordekaiser is trapped under, and the lore of Mordekaiser, like everybody's hyped, and like all the Mordekaiser mains were excited for this champion to come out. They're just getting memed, bro. There's like a Hextech chest version of the Mordekaiser
so
skin.
Funny. Yeah, it's like Mordekaiser made out of Hextech chests. It's super funny.
That is just that they need to, like, the trust is so important. That was your value. That was your value proposition. Anything that you would make would have the attention, and now it's just being killed very slowly, but also fast with this Hextech thing. That was like another stab in the bleeding horse. That is Riot Games.
Sad times.
I need to find another game.
You mean
no, don't worry.
It's the only horse that doesn't make loads of money in esports.
Well, they do. They just get fed to it by, you know, Prince MBS.
Right. Okay.
He just straps the bag of oats on their face. But yeah,
I do like to strap things on people's faces. That's true.
Wow. Speaking of which, we'll do another Four Horsemen on the Saudyification of esports in a couple weeks.
That's going to be a series at this point in time. That's not we haven't finished revisiting that well. Come on.
It's only going to continue, man. It's only going to continue.
The question will always be, though, if you want to know the hardest part of doing those episodes, it's not doing the episodes, not the research, not the plan. It's finding the guests. That's the fucking, that's the skill. Yeah.
I'm not coming.
By the way, I will say this before I go. So there was an article that came out that talked about how all of the Riot casters were put into a briefing about the new Saudi sponsorship.
What website was this on?
His leader Grev.
Okay.
He did an interview with some of the casters who were in this, who were basically told by Riot Games that, no, you guys are not going to have to say the bad words about the Saudi government. It's going to be put on commercials. So none of our casters in any of our games are going to actually have to say anything. You don't have to do the ad reads. You just sit there and it'll just be on the overlay and we'll just play the video ads. They didn't answer any questions about whether the money was going to fund the teams or the broadcasts or anything like that. They dismissed all accountability for Riot, and nobody wanted to say anything because they're all cowards and freelancers, and they apparently can't get together and say no because they're fucking idiots. So they're just going to let it happen, basically. Super disappointing, but here we are. So this is, by the way, the Saudi creep that is just going to keep coming, because they do it in stages, guys, so you don't notice, and it validates them. So now they're going to have it on the official broadcast, and then the next step is to get the casters to say it, right? Because that validates them further. And by this time next year, the casters, they'll be like, oh, it's already on the broadcast anyway, so we might as well just say it. So it'll just keep happening, right? It'll just keep happening over time. It'll get further integrated into the circuit. And probably on a long enough timeline, all Riot Tier 1 esports will just be run by ESL Faceit Group, which is where this is going. Because Riot doesn't want to pay for them, clearly.
Yeah.
Right, see you, Monty.
Bye. It's been fun, guys. I guess we'll take a quick break, and then I will vanish.
All right.
Right, we're back. And that means that we need to have our own conversations without Monty, without making it like a 10-year throwback episode of Summoning Insight. So if you rewind and remember, earlier in the show, we obviously had that amazing discussion about the series between Dplus and Hanwha Life. Well, when you watch Beryl play a best of 5, you know you're in for some fresh madness. And speaking of, you'd be mad not to take advantage of the offer HelloFresh has for you, our lovely podcast listener. HelloFresh gives you farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep, so there's no need to go to the shop or become a master chef like Beryl. HelloFresh puts the fun, ease and affordability back into cooking. Just like he does. Obviously not the most expensive player in the league, is he? Karmine Corp can cook or get cooked in 15 minutes or less. And that reminds me of HelloFresh's 15-minute meals that are done in just 3 simple steps. So you can eat better this year without all the hassle. Imagine that, eating better at Karmine Corp without all the hassle. You might, chance to be a fine thing, eh? Like a Western team going quickly looking up a great LCK or LPL draft the day before a draft. Imagine if Western coaches did that, eh? HelloFresh has a variety of prep and bake meals that come together with minimal mess and only 5 minutes of prep. So your oven does most of the work for you, kind of like the players do in those analogies of when someone's copy and paste the draft. I will say, actually, I've used this product before myself. It's the one where they send you the ingredients and you put it together yourself with the recipe. As they say, the pre-portioned part is the best part, by the way, and the different recipes. Again, just like with when they do the factor side and you can have different menus, etc. First of all, it's not the same food each week. You can select from a whole bunch of different options. And then because they send you each thing that you're going to need, that is the key, it turns out, to actually being good at cooking, is most people, when they make some sort of meal, just do like the basic ingredients that they know are in there, but they don't know, like, you sometimes need like a tiny bit of ginger, or you need like a small amount of a sauce that you don't, like a rare oyster sauce or something you wouldn't have in the house on hand. And obviously the problem, if you're someone young and you're not like super into cooking, this is a great way to get into cooking, by the way, kind of puts the fun and the joy into it because it takes the hassle out of it, is you're not going to have a million sauces extra. Like if you ever look online at how people make like restaurant food, they have, when they make like their own burger sauce or something, it's about 9 ingredients, bro, and there's like powders that you don't even have in there. So you'll just get it all here. That's the best thing. They send you it all, and it's super simple to follow the instructions. So what's funny is when you actually do this, it actually sort of like is almost like stabilizing wheels to teach you how to cook. So what's great is you can even like learn, this ingredient attenuates this in that way, or putting garlic in does this to the flavor that I didn't know about. And crucially, at the end, you can save the recipe. And by the way, you could recreate it at any point in time with those ingredients. And then lastly, because you're putting in all these little extra details and they tell you what order to do everything in, it's fairly idiot proof. Like when I did it, I wasn't a good cook, but there's a bunch of times I did it and I didn't necessarily do it as well as they said on the recipe, but the amount of times that I was like, this actually tastes way better than I expected it to be. It's even like a sort of a recipe I wouldn't have chosen normally, but I tried it just to sort of stimulate a bit of variety. So get up to 10 free meals and a free high protein item for life at hellofresh.com/HelloFresh podcast, all one word. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to hellofresh.com/HelloFresh podcast, all one word. By the way, HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Yeah, thank you to HelloFresh. Thank you to anyone who supports us. If you wanted a break, you don't want to do the factor angle, first of all, they have these prep and bake ones too, by the way, that are like really simple ones. But this is also, if you ever have wanted to actually learn how to cook, and it's something you've just never looked into, this is actually a fun way to do it. I did it myself many, many years ago. In fact, before they even had meal services, this is one of the first ones I did like 10 years ago. So it is a good product. And I know they also do have it in other countries as well. Just we're obviously shouting out the American side. So thank you to HelloFresh and anyone who supports the podcast by supporting these partners of ours. So let's get into the LEC now. Let's get into LEC, because holy shit, Yamato. If everyone was complaining before about the storylines, this weekend fucking cooked, mate. What are you talking about? First of all, we had the like proper Fnatic G2 game, because obviously we haven't had proper Fearless. It was just BO1 before. And everyone in the world thought Fnatic was going to win this one, except maybe G2. This is a fucking interesting series, because I also think the 2-0 does not do it justice, bro. Like if you're Fnatic, this really is one of those classic ones where it's like, you know, they beat us, but we also beat ourselves. And also, this is going to be a fucking harder battle than we thought to win the league. And everyone thought everything was streamlined and we're going to get going early. And this is kind of a spicy series. What are your thoughts? Opening thoughts?
I would just begin with the losing side, right? It's like, Fnatic definitely looked better coming into it. Like both teams were on a win streak. G2 had figured out things in week 3. They had won 4 games straight, and also, of course, the previous series. Same thing for Fnatic. The easy work of Team Heretics. GX prep work was just horrible against G2, so they didn't really get tested in that one. Moving into this one, I think Fnatic did perform better in the regular split, and also the first 10 minutes of that first opening game. It also felt like there was a continuation of that, because how Razork and Mickey were just controlling both side river just seemed like, oh, this jungle super just going to dominate the game. But then as things went on, kind of like, I think every Fnatic fan just got PTSD because they've been there before, where the same mistakes kind of happened, like unforced errors. I think that the standout was, of course, how Razor kept engaging when it wasn't necessary. You had Mickey getting caught, especially after that pre-game interview with BB, where like they were like mocking each other, and BB was like telling him in his face, like, bro, you're gonna die. We know how you move. We're gonna catch you. You're gonna be free food. Like this like everything kind of just played out, and then it's like, Fnatic 2 times, especially after what Grab said about Atakan. It's kind of hilarious that the way they played out their Atakan was just so horrible. It's like, Atakan is a big conversation that I can have, because this objective has been so nerfed. And on stream, I always say, yo, this is the IQ test. And Fnatic managed to fail the IQ test 2 times in such a devastating way that just cost them the game. So Fnatic is like big disappointment. There was like rumblings about, of course, like upset being sick. Maybe that's something that affects it, you know. But that's like just a part of the game. You got to deal with it. And Fnatic, first 10 minutes, first 15, look good. And then just the overcommitment in game 2 was also really, really bad. It's like, I like the snap on the Lulu, was really, really good. But then they just commit with 3 melee champions into Sivir and Azi, when in reality, like Jinx and Ari could have just one-shot the Lulu and they could have played the game. But just fight selection, fight determination, how they snap, how they played was just not there. And it seemed like G2 just had such a strong identity in what they wanted to do in the game. Like they just seemed like they had a plan always in the games that were being played, and it was just lovely to see.
No, I'm with you by the on that angle, because the harshest thing, if you were a fan, if you didn't watch it, you're just going to look and go, oh, I guess they just flopped and G2 just wrecked them. Not at all. Like, Fnatic, everything was looking awesome at times in these games. By the way, it was looking both times like this could be a really fucking banger series. Maybe Fnatic's actually going to get like the statement win where, you know, G2 turns up and then they win anyway. I'm with you, though. The most bizarre thing of all is this. It's not even that it was just like an even game and they just like lost the fight off. They actually did things where it's like, bro, you remember that old term that now no one uses? You had the tempo of the game. You had the sort of say as to where things happen on the map and what you can do. And like you're saying, Yamato, they did the thing that I think happens in all Western regions, which is essentially, I used to make the joke, this is what people used to do against TSM and Bjergsen. Because when you see the name Bjergsen, it actually is in the LCS, like seeing Faker on the screen. Your brain doesn't go, just another player. Oh, he's playing the champion. What's that? Syndra? Okay. What you do is your brain goes, shit, it's Bjergsen, we better kill him now. And you just like fucking go in, and it's like you're so horny to end the game as soon as you can if you play this guy. Well, here's the thing. Great champions and people who've been in that position many, many, many times, they actually then know this isn't even about that. Like, I can actually sort of wait back and then I can punish you when you make a mistake or when you go in and man alive. Every time Fnatic tried to go in and do something, it felt like G2 just not only would like keep it way more even than you thought. Like, it was getting sometimes like they were losing the fight, but then their re-engages and how they would turn the fight, they would just fucking decimate them. And also, even though it was pure banter, when Mickey X was bantering Broken Blade, because he thinking, what's he going to banter about? He's been like kicked out the team basically. He had the whole angle of like, yeah, but now in Fnatic, I'm not going to go in and just have you guys like leave me out there to die, bro. My point for upset was literally like, I'm off to the shops, guys. You want anything? Oh shit, you fighting? Like, he was doing some of those, mate. Where at the end of the fight, he's like walking to the base, like, fucking hell, homie. Like, so I don't think you know your personnel before you say that one, mate. Because I'm with you though. The saddest thing about this was the number one narrative between Fnatic and G2 isn't even really, is Fnatic the best team and can G2 never be good? It's that G2 done fucked up by letting Mickey X score. And remember what we've all been talking about. Now you've let Mickey X and Razork join together. Because I do think, by the way, I mean, you coached him. I do think that from the things I've heard from people who've been in his teams, one of the problems Razork has is because as a player, he's just a complete package, but he is a very emotional player. He puts insane pressure on himself to carry games, by the way. If he's in a game where he's doing like everything, but at the end he does the one mistake, I've heard he just takes it totally to heart. He's like, I fucked it up. I thought, right, Mickey X is going to relieve that from you you, mate. There's another guy who's like a fucking wizard on the map. He's going to link up with you. Those two players in particular, the two that should have been gapping the newer players for G2, they had a horrible series. They both, as you say, they had moments where it's like, well, I'm not even going to put flame on people like Humanoid. So this was actually, these guys actually, who were supposed to be the deadliest combo in the league, they did sort of fuck up. I actually felt like the pressure did get to them in that moment, mate.
And it's so sad because in the same game, they're also like dominating. It's like they killed Caps over and over again, dominated River. It's like there was the beautiful pathing from Skimond where he basically like invaded, took the Raptors red, crossed over, and Vi was Giga behind in the game. He managed to recover that game, be level 6 versus level 6. And I think that's the most painful part because there was this one crucial fight on mid-wave where Swain, like BB, just used his ultimate way too early, only on the Kisante. And all they needed to do was kite back. They just had to walk away. And in goes Razork flying in with his Q flash ulting when his team just completely out of position. They could have just walked away from the Swain, and G2's position was just awful because they had lost the Drake and position because they were basically just posturing towards G2's base. And that part is just what stings, right? It's like, I think like on the other side, in terms of giving credit to G2, I think the prep work super good. It's like we already saw signs of that in week 3. I hadn't given up hope on G2 at all because it was very clear in week 1 and 2 they were playing like Akali, Wukong, full melee compositions, and it's very clear that the meta is moving in a very specific direction. G2, they pulled out the Lulu Sivir again, and they played the Azir, and then the Pantheon of Skimon looked really good. I think that the standout for me in terms of like a player that I had, not expecting much of, especially in terms of the champions that he was on, was just Hans Sama. Like that Ezreal performance was crazy because it's like in week 3 they won games, but it looked kind of sloppy. It didn't look like him, but that Ezreal game was wonderful. That was beautiful.
About 3 times in that fight on the side, like, it looked like he was going to lose it. Like they look like they're actually about to get like swept, but he couldn't be killed. Right? It was mad.
Bro, he was just peppering. He was like having like a dream Ezreal performance, and that's like a super good look. Like that's a big step up. I think G2's prep work is super good. I didn't like the Warwick too much, like without the Pantheon, because like it was a very specific strategy to just dive on Bess on side, and that worked. But he got to play that game, and in the end there was that fight at Dragon where Humanoid just snapped on the Lulu, and I think that could have been such a good fight because when I watched it the first time I was like, oh, this is just bad because he's crossing like the banana bush, and this is like a sacred rule that you don't break. But he finds the engager Lulu. If Jinx just W'd and ulted and Ari did full combo and they didn't commit with the melees, Sivir and Azir don't get the value that they have there, and they just kill Lulu and the game continues. But falling behind, of course, against Lulu, Sivir, Azir is just something that you're not allowed to do. And in the end, like G2 just like that game was just over very quickly. But that game 1 as well, I think if anyone doesn't understand the beauty of Caps as a player is like he's 0-4 down in that game.
Oh, it's nuts.
And he finds angles that nobody else does. There was like the chunk out on Corki on their Nash push where he just lost all HP in top, where like I think Razork just snapped Vi ulted him as a response, which was like engagement that happened. And then like the sneaking into the bush where Vi felt so comfortable walking towards the ramp because he has 4 players on, of course, the mid-wave. Labrov and Caps trapping there, one-shotting Vi, and then he just buffers the Vi ultimate, of course, with the unstoppable of Aurora ult, TP's in, and then Poppy eases her into the TP again, and he just survives, kills Vi, and then, of course, the game just explodes on that spot. But it seems like everything is kind of falling into place. Still, I think Labrov is taking more of a backseat and just kind of playing his champion for what it is. And maybe that's okay because everybody else is really stepping up. And I think still Fnatic's quality is in how they control the flow of the game, the macro of the game. It's like they're very good at collapsing, very good at map openings, very good at, of course, keeping tempo in check. But their fight selection and fight understanding is very poor. And this is something that's been a big issue even last year. So even though I present it as a small thing, it is a very big thing. And this is something that they need to really address fast. The Atakan forces were also really terrible. It's like that Atakan they did in second games, like Ari no ult, Ambessa no ult.
Give me
just
the
hitting it.
What is it? What are they fall into the trap with the Atakan? Explain it.
So it's like the main thing for me is first and foremost, it's like the moments where they hit the Atakan. It's like with the nerfs to it, it's a 16,000 HP objective that is when you hit it, you put yourself in harm's way 100%, unless you have the tools to just turn and force a fight because you want to leverage that Warwick is dead. But they didn't have the tools to do so. The Ari, the Ambessa, or they didn't have these ults. They don't have like Rel Q Flash. If you are ever in a position, the same principle as in like in the Dragon area, if you're looking to push the fight, you turn on the banana bush and you don't let the enemy enter. You pull out the Drake, you turn on the banana bush. When they cross, they are going through that choke. The same thing happens on the Atakan, especially on bottom side. If the enemy can stand in that tri-bush, you are not going to look to turn. You're looking for a finish. And they tried desperately to find a turn, and then Azir just found like such a good TP flank where Jinx just has no pocket to play in because she is the one forced through a choke to even look at this Lulu. And then Atakan is just doing like that circle maneuver, and then it's like Azir's coming from a flank. It's just, in terms of their position and understanding how their abilities need to be used in order to break the enemy champions, this is where the flaw is, because they seem to be so used to just going. They don't seem to have an understanding of, Vi in this game doesn't need to ult. You just need to hold your ult, because if Ezreal sees that you don't have ult, you shouldn't. Like he can't play as actively as he did in that fight on bot when Ezreal popped off. They sent the Vi ult on, of course, Swain, and in reality they could have chunked the Swain, played it slow, because Ezreal's not going to get value unless Vi ults. And this ability economy is their biggest miss. Atakan understanding also big miss, because I am personally of the opinion, even in that spot, if G2 decided to just give that up, push mid, push bot, take tier 1 top, mid and top for the Atakan that doesn't have any crossover with Dragon or Nash, it's just completely pointless. So the decision was just so bad on so many levels, because in that moment, if G2 just said, let's just take mid turret here and top turret and then next tower and then it's just over, that happened in game 1 and game 2, and this is just a mistake that I see so often. It happens in LCK, happens in LPL. Atakan understanding is at an all-time low. It's horrible.
By the way, I will say that's the one little asterisk I'll put next to that series. It wasn't actually Upset himself, as far as I know, by the way, who even said anything about being ill. It was actually Grabs in the press conference afterwards said that the night before, Upset had basically told him, like, I have a fever. And then they basically just said to him, like, take painkillers or something.
He did tweet it. He did tweet it after the series. So yeah, he did tweet it. He said, like, I felt under the weather, but no excuse. We will get them next time. This type of shit.
Because, by the way, to me, you can't, an excuse like that, I have a rule that goes at Yamato. You should say if something did affect your player, because that's actually just being honest and giving everyone more information. The excuse is for a fan to use. If a fan wants to go, that doesn't count, the fan can do that. Like, you give them the information. A player, like a true competitor, I'm sorry, they will always just be like, look, I lost. By the way, if I'd have been playing against them and Caps was ill, what would I not take the win and go, it doesn't count, of course? I'd go, well, unlucky for you, you're ill. By the way, so in this scenario, I actually do think Upset looked way worse in this series. So I do think asterisk, if they play again, it's a Doublelift tournament, I would like to see them all at full strength. But right now, yeah, look, you have to give the psychological edge to G2, of course. Like that was crazy. By the way, I'll tell you another team we could talk about. Let's talk about, even though we're not going to do too many of the not as interesting series, bro, I actually told you when they made the BDS roster, I was like, I could see on paper how this could be good, though. I could see how you could get this like to go together. What the fuck was that first game against Movistar? Bro, I don't know that. People talk about throws. That is one of the craziest. Like, there are moments I could pause that, Yamato, and just say to you, do you know that the team that's got like the however many kills, they lose this game? And you'd be like, there's no way. This was like inexplicable that they lost this first game. And from that, the whole series just went like, that was mental, man. I thought that should be a banger set. That could be like a 3-gamer. Let's go. What the fuck do you have to say about that, man? What was that?
I was just, it's like the opening game was the game where they played like the Viego Aurora, which just seems so out of sorts in terms of what their identity is, because it's just so antithetical to what I believe BDS to be, like a
Game
Mako
2, yes,
team.
yeah.
And then it's like that game 2 was a disgusting performance. Like everything looked good. It's like they had such a good draft that should be super, super winning. Karma, I don't believe in against the Rumble. You have like the Renata into the Nautilus. It's like the Nautilus on 4. The fact that Koi didn't pick Rumble on 4 is madness in the first place. To invite the Rumble into the Maokai Varos Tristana team is just horrible. But this is where the big flaw of, I think, like the player that stands out to me the most here is just Nuke. It's like the snowball that went in the other direction was him just getting caught, getting solo killed by Ion on side.
Bro, you're fed as fuck on Tristana. If my boy Records taught us anything, you can get out of fights, you can run away with Tristana. It's a really good champion to protect yourself with.
It was so absurd. It's such a horrible. I genuinely feel bad for 113. It's like 113 had a good Maokai game, solid performance. But I just have to say, like Paros on Renata as well, just died without using his abilities many times. Really, really poor usage of spells. Irrelevant most of the time is in fact irrelevant. It's like the jokes kind of write themselves at this point. It's like his stint here has been just disappointing. Like that game should have been won. It's like that game, I think almost anyone in the league wins out that game, but just in terms of what their player names are, they just couldn't piece it together. Like that was such an easy game to win. It's just a tragedy. It's just horrible.
I still don't get it, bro. They had the kills, they had the fed carries, they had the fucking dragons, they had everything. Everything. Oh, it's so
mental, man. It's really, really mental, you know? It's like if anything, it's like I do think it's like something that I've always given this Koi roster credit for is that they seem very, very unaffected about game states. They seem to just play, and I like they seem to not waver in their confidence level, which I think is a trait that some teams are missing. Because when they did the run last year with Friskawi to get all the way to the finals, I think that was just a question of grit. Like they had the grit to perform in series that were long and gruesome, and they had a lot of character where a lot of teams can stare down the barrel of an opportunity where you can defeat potentially G2, but they just don't do it because of the gravitas of the moment. But Mad Lions, these guys, they can win a series against G2 if the opportunity presents itself. So they stuck in that game. They found a way out by just BDS inting, but some teams are not going to take that chance. They're going to make it easy for the enemy to finish.
And then the bomber for me, bro, is you see Movistar do that. So you're like, okay, maybe Movistar's just the truth, Then they go against Carmine Corp. Bro, that first game, remember Carmine Corp's the people with like rookie Kalista and stuff. That first game was just complete a stomp. It was like just clean as fuck the whole way through. Like you wouldn't believe it was Movistar that have the veteran squad, like you say, with the same team and the upgrades, all that. It was inexplicable, that game to me, bro. What the fuck? I thought this was going to be a really close game, like on the knife edge the whole way.
No, that was just I'm just so impressed that KC out of all teams looked like the most disciplined team in the league. Because it's like G2 won, but they do mistakes. Fnatic do mistakes. It's like this was such a disciplined game. Yes. It's like I really didn't like Koi drafting like the Braum on 5 together with the Kaiser when they just need more engaged tools. They were kind of baited in by the Poppy. It's like KC prep-wise look really, really good. But in terms of how they're moving, waiting for the right information, and respecting the angles of Koi got insanely suffocated. It's like after that double kill happened on bottom side, where of course Kaiser Braum got like a really, really good trade, and then they dove under the turret, and Kalista just walks away from that with a double kill. Like that was really, really bad for the game, and they needed to find opportunities. And against most teams, I would say they do find those opportunities, but KC was so damn disciplined. They just choked them out completely, which is crazy to say. I thought that would be the biggest weak point of KC. It's like Tagamas doesn't speak much. EI comes from G2. This is going to be, require some time to gel. You have Kalista coming in as the rookie. Vladi only played like one split. And then you have Kana, of course. He is a foreigner, right? He's coming in as the import. I thought this would be like the challenge, but no, it isn't. It really, really isn't. Most disciplined game that we saw in LSE by far.
And just a great rookie start to the trajectory of Kalist. Like, bro, here's one of the things as well. I actually think he's very unique, not only as like a rookie, but as an ADC. Because what's crazy is he clearly has like the mechanics and like the want to like go forwards of like a Kazi or a like fucking, like any kind of like super aggressive AD carry. But what I love is he has like veteran decision making, bro. Because one thing you'll see him do is when you're doing like a proper 5v5, or he'll stay at the back and like properly let them peel for him, and you can't get to him with the spells. By the way, that's actually the thing Reckless was always the best at. You could never get to him in the team fight. You were always reaching forwards. But then, when he notices the other team have used all their abilities and everything's on cooldown, he'll go really aggressively forwards and almost bait them into the re-engage. Because if you go in, then his team just collapses on you. Like, whoa, this is like a rookie. Normally, you're supposed to be like, you're a bit too scared or you're a bit too forwards. Like, he's actually showing, just like he showed in some of those little cool moments he did in the regular split, the actual almost like veteran awareness or like fucking... It almost implies me there's a level of calm when you're performing like that, because if you've ever seen the really sick players like even Faker at his prime, the sick thing is they're doing all those crazy Korean movements, but their face always looks really serene. Like they're just like, it's like their hands are moving without their brain worrying about it. Whereas, even some really good Western players do have that thing where like when someone's playing fucking melee against you and you win in bragging rights, like leaning forwards doing that, like fucking. This guy's so cool. His poise under pressure's crazy.
It's just I love watching him play because it's like you just know a player that pursues everything in each situation is going to just be insane in the long run. He did this in LFL, right? But like he came in, like there's a story that I've shared a couple of times, but like in KC when he joined the team, right? Like to replace Kaori because they had that split where they didn't even make playoffs, and then they went into summer and they really wanted to sign Kalist, and they did so. Like Kalist was the one pushing his teammates to play more solo queue. He just came in, it's like, why are you not practicing? Come on, fucking practice. Like, I'm grinding. I want to win. Can you fucking get your shit together? And he just comes in, you know. So, you know, you have like these LFL goats, you know, like with Cabo and Sak, and they've won LFL a couple of times. They have like their methodology. They have it their own way. They do a certain way. And he just comes in and makes a ruckus, you know. It's like, in terms of his character, like, he definitely has the right characteristics of a person that seems so comfortable in competition. It's like anyone that trusts himself at such a level, I think will always go far, because it might not seem like all the decisions in terms of posturing forward in a lot of cases might not matter, but when they do, they matter so much. And a lot of players are going to take the safe route. It's like, oh, I'm not going to take this trade because it's not going to end up mattering. I'm not going to risk it because I don't have perfect information. He postures forward. Sure, there's moments like he dies on Ezreal against like caps on Akali, but he is playing the game where he is leveraging fake pressure. He doesn't know what information he plays with, and he's actively having a thought process in mind. I think the best example is, of course, that moment where he checks Kalista mana. She had no E's. I'm not flashing. It's like this level of awareness and pursuit of more is what's so insane, because a coach can look at that and be like, this is pointless. Why are you taking this risk? But in the long run, there will be moments where you're playing a game 5 against the best team in the league, or you're playing internationally, and those things are going to matter. It's all about the squeeze. You got to find the squeeze, and he's a squeezer. It's just so fun to watch. And to follow up as well, it's like I thought Targamas, you know, in my mind, I had my eyes on him because I thought he would maybe be the person that, you know, holds down the ceiling of this team. Right. I put KC as the 3rd best team in the league, but this series was insane. Like, he found the game-winning play in that game 2, which is a draft that is not the easiest to play, but he just Q flashes on Azir, finds beautiful ultimates, and then the 4-man Kalista ult. Like, Targamos was really, really awake, and he executed mechanically, you know, like he brings a lot of intangibles to the team. That's very, very clear. Like, in terms of me working with him too, I know how smart he can be about the game, but I felt something was missing inside of the game. So this series proved to me that he's very, very capable.
Because the thing is, I actually do think now is when you can actually crank the hype up. Before, it's just like, that's a nice play, or it's a good game in the LEC. Let's see how now he's played a couple of playoff games. He's played now 13 LEC games, guys. And after seeing the 13 games, the IHS checks out. This guy, by the way, it's not just going to be like a very good player. He could be a future league MVP. He has that kind of potential. And I'm with you, Yamato. If it also turns out he actually has like a professional mindset and wants to grind the game perfect, that's how you accelerate and become a really great player. Absolutely.
I think also to follow up, like Vladi is also just fantastic. Like I got the privilege to watch him play against Jackies over and over again, like in Champions Queue, you know, just they were playing a Champions Queue, playing over and over again. It's like Vladi as a player, like even in the voice com videos, like this is something Dom pointed out. It's like, bro, he's so calm. It's like he has players around him, like Upset was stressing out, right, in the com videos. And it's like, yo, chill, bro. Let's just hit the mid-third tier. Let's take it easy. And it's like some characteristics are more common in rookies, but there are rookies that don't behave like rookies. And I do feel like Vladi and Kalist really falls in those categories. So it's like, in terms of finding these players, KC making the commitment for Kalist mid-season after having a terrible split, and then, of course, making this commitment to stick with Targamas, to make sure that the Kalist Targamas gets reunited. There was a lot of like buzz in terms of, you know, replacements that should have happened and should have occurred, and the fact they were crazy. I know Roma like said that this was not something that was you know, that happened, but there was the question of like trading him for Ansama, Mickey, and of course Yike, but these were players they wanted to get rid of. But now it's like the KC decision making as an org in terms of like their team, everything is just falling into place. So I have a lot of respect for that, for sure.
By the way, just a random detail. I also, not only do I like Vladdy's game, like I told you, him and Jackie, as soon as they came in the league, I was like, I'm in for this, mate. Like, I didn't know these guys before. They've got a fucking fun style. They make the game happen. They definitely go for like the carry picks. Even the other day, random detail, when I finished doing my stream that I do every night, I actually did send the raid to the Vladdy guy, right? Because I don't know him. He's not somebody's insulted me. I think seems like a good player. And when I sent the raid to his channel, I always check when it's a foreign player, like before I send the raid, like, do they like speak in English though? Or do they just like speak like their language? And so like maybe my fans don't want to go and hear someone speak whatever his language is, right? So in this particular scenario, I clicked on his stream, and when he plays solo queue, he's just listening to like classic DMX, bro. Like, this guy's got swag. I like it. He's got fucking swag, bro. And by the way, in the game, he does just go pure mechanics in solo queue. Just fucking try and limit testing all the time. That's the type of player I fuck with, mate. That's the type of player I want.
It's just, I don't know. I watching him in Champions Queue, I was like, oh, maybe his laning is a little bit worse than Jackie's. But as the game progressed, his decision making, side laning, team fighting, really, really insane. But now he's like very, very complete as a player. I thought even after like the regular split, I did like this like player ranking, and I put him third best performer. And I do think that this guy is just the real deal. I'm so hyped that like EU mid is a thing again, bro. Like it's really good, and it's like the storyline now. Casey versus G2 is so fucking hype because that series might just determine who is going to get rookie of the split. It's like Alice, of course, has a lot of eyes on him because of the hype and everything that in terms of how everything was built up. And he was just the one that got cockblocked by the fact that like they raised from 17 to 18. Well, Callisto played like there's such a big buzz behind. But the conversation in terms of Skewmon, in terms of what he's offered to the team, I think like in terms of the comparison, especially after the last series, Skewmon playing against Razor, performing so damn good, like that conversation is so fucking hype. You know, who's going to be the rookie of the split, you know?
Also, I'm with you. Actually, on the last episode of the Best Damn League show, which featured Youngbuck as the guest, one of my good points was just look at the fucking mid lane in EU. Remember, we were the mid lane region. Like, we could even make the mid laners that could actually fuck up like a Korean mid laner. And by the way, at the time, China didn't even have mid laners. Just that cool. That was about it. It was just fucking a bunch of weirdos. So, like, we've actually got a crazy field again. Like, I'll tell you the obvious line. It's actually what made Nuke originally get really mad at me way back in the day when I said this about BDS. But I'll say it about Nuke. Nuke is not a bad mid laner, by the way. In a normal LCS season in the past, he'd be top half. But to me, he's not a generational talent, and he's never going to be better than a Caps. So if you look at the league right now, and I try in my mind to do a weighting of the mid laners, bro, if Nuke is going to be like my 6th best mid laner, but a good mid laner, we've got a fucking deep talent field at that position. Like this, we're fucking cooking in this position. And it's making, like you say, now you don't get the playoff matchup where it's like, oh, this team's going against GT. Oh, well, it's instant, insane gap in the mid, no chance whatsoever. No, like as you saw, by the way, Humanoid even had that one game where he was actually cooking against Caps. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like that's what's going to make it spicy. Like G2 is going to actually have to earn this split, bro. There's no like fucking around, silly drafts. Like BB does whatever he wants. Like win a couple of games, but we're always going to win in the end. Like they keep joking with their social media, like same old same, but it isn't, mate. Like you can tell it's even energized them though. That's another good thing. It's bringing the best out of G2 as well. I'm actually loving this LEC split. I know everyone didn't like the BO1s, but now that we're into the playoffs, it's starting to cook, mate. I'm starting to enjoy it.
Especially like we had the format discussion earlier. It's like LTA, LCK problems all the way. It's like now the slow cooker formats I feel very, very rewarding. You know, it's like BO1s are gone, double elimination, best of 3 into like this BO5 gauntlet is going to be super, super nice. Like it's very high.
Just BO3 in the group stage, though, surely you matter. You want that, right? Especially when we were going to do Fearless, we should have done it right.
Yeah, of course. Like I was, it's such a like the BO1s are trash, but at least we are past that. At least we are past that, and it's better than whatever like LTA has on in the second half. Like if I have to choose, I'd rather feel the pain early because I want to have like competitive integrity at the end of the day, and I do think to some degree, of course, this gives that, regardless of what impact it has on Fearless on BO1 or not.
Right. Here's the obvious question. Then we've arrived. The first BO5, it's going to be a while from now, but will be played. It will obviously be the one between G2 and Carmine Corp. It's going to be, oh no, it's a week on Monday. Okay, it's on the Monday the 24th. Right? Now Callisto starts to play a BO5 against G2 on LAN. Like, by the way, welcome to the LEC. This is what it's all about. Doesn't matter how good you are, that team's always fucking there. They're the final boss. And if you can't stop Donkey Kong throwing the fucking barrels down, then you don't complete the game, do you? So here's the question. Does Carmine Corp have a chance?
I honestly think they do. Yeah. I would say they do. I think that they show a very, very high level of discipline, as mentioned before. I think that their game ideas are very, very solid, and they can find ways to put themselves in positions where they will actually have fair fights. It's like a big problem always with teams that have faced G2 in the past, especially last year, is they would just fuck you up completely macro-wise. Like if there were fights that G2 didn't want to take, they could always find value. So we look back at Fnatic and G2 of old when those series played out, G2 could always set the pace and make Fnatic race against it regardless of what the gold state was in the game. And now with the changes of everything and also the current state of KC and current state of G2, I do think that we're going to be in positions where we get like fair fights on objectives. And I think KC as a team, mechanically, they can definitely compete. I think now Targamas showed a new layer to himself. I think that the conversation of like the rematch, I do think the fact that it's a best of 5 is what is going to make this super interesting, because that's where I think the legacy of Caps and BB will definitely shine through. Because if this goes to game 4 and 5, I just really think that players like BB and Caps are going to win you series. And that is like the thing to overcome. I think if KC wants to win, they need to do it swift and they need to do it fast, because the prep work seems to be decent, but how deep does it go? That's like my main question. It's like it's hard to go against BB and Caps at this point in time. Until they lose a BO5 in a way that is convincing, I'm always going to lean towards them, because the deeper it goes, the better they get.
And I'll actually touch on something you said earlier. The obvious angle, if you go in player for player and you go down KC and G2, is obviously your brain still thinks of Targamas and goes, well, come on, he can't be as good as Lavrov. I actually do think Yamato, despite G2 looking really good, Lavrov looks like actually he's just sort of slowly integrating to the team. If anything, his game he's not even trying to go too crazy. It looks like he's trying at the moment not to make mistakes and just chill a little bit and then figure out what his place within the team is, So actually, I think that's not as crazy a matchup as people think. Like, basically in this series, what I want to see is actually Canada versus Broken Blade's not a bad matchup. That's quite a fun one in lane right there. And it's obviously just the carries, isn't it? I want to see Vladdy and Kalist go against Caps and Hans Sama, because as you said, Hans Sama had the glow up in that match too. Like, let's just fucking set them loose. Like, let's see who in this game is the best, not who's the best overall. Yeah, you can have the great status. You got all the championships. But by the way, this is the thing I think is very underrated of being the best team. People who are fans almost think like winning a championship gives you like stats in the game or something. Like, bro, you have to earn those championships every single split. And by the way, the other guy's super horny to take that from you and himself to become a champion. And by the way, since it's double a limb, just dream with me for a moment here, guys. Could you even imagine if Carmine Corp with Yike and then rookie Kalist wins the initial BO5 over G2 and goes to the finals? Bruh. That's when the league just goes to another level. And then, even though those fans were annoying to me when the team was losing every bloody game, that's where it'll be fire to have that atmosphere. Imagine G2 coming in and there's all the fucking blue wall, but that's when it'll go fucking crazy, bro. Look, obviously, this is a joke. It might even be illegal in Germany to do this. I want LEC Studios to be like back in the day when I was a boy, Yamato, and I used to turn on Football Italia, and I'd watch the San Siro with like fucking flares going off and people like massive flags that go over like 10 people. And all the ultras just like, oh, get him! And then it was crazy, bro. The tension, the passion when Inter played against Milan, it was the shit, bro. It was the shit. They lived and died for that shit.
No, bro, like from coming from a football background, it's like we had this Kurdish team in Sweden. They also always went crazy. They had the fucking drums and the fires and just smoke. It's like that type of fandom. It's like there's obviously very, very bad sides to it, but I think that comes with side, because it's like if I open that kind of world, all the bad things of those crazy fandoms, it's a long list of fucked up shit that has occurred and still happens, but it is a sign of life and passion. So it's like I'm excited to see the winning side of the KC fan base. I'm happy that Koi is doing well, KC is doing well. There's like competition. We had the dream matchups, right? KC versus Koi, G2 versus Fnatic. LEC, it can't be happier. I think it's just a perfect. And some stooge is gonna take credit for it, bro. They're gonna fire more people and take credit.
Also, here's the copium, right? If you're a Fnatic fan, congrats. To make the finals now, they have to play even more series. We get to see even more great games of them, and they can power up and they can, start battling back, and then eventually they can earn their way to the final and beat G2, can't they? Definitely, guys. And then Grabs and Mickey could get their revenge, definitely. Tears, just didn't put the mask on. As I've sort of alluded to there, if I could actually write the script, I'd do it the other way around, though. I'd have Fnatic win the first meeting, and then there'd be all three, and then go to the final, and then G2 does that in the final and comes back and wins that. But okay, we can spin it the other way around, because that's why, in a weird way, I do need that copium that, like, Upset was injured. Oh, good, right? There's a reason why they weren't quite as good. But later, but that won't be the case next time. No. Hey, tell you what, you should fight us when we've got full strength, man. You took advantage. I have to do the copium, bro. You have to do it in sports. You have to do it. You have to do it to believe. But I'm with you. It looks fire, mate.
No, of course. No, but it's like the other matchups are pretty, like the first ones are maybe not the hypiest ones, because those teams should just be eliminated, right? It's like Team Heretics, like GX, BDS, like these guys, we're going to have the 4 teams we saw in KC, Koi, and G2 and Fnatic in the final rounds. Like, that's going to be such a banger of a bracket. And now it's just like a little bit of a warm up for them as they wait for the next opponent. I think we're in for a wonderful playoffs. It's like, I just want to hit on GX, bro, because what the fuck has happened to these guys? It's like I we had Jackie's on the pod, and we said to his face, it's like, you're 5th place, but I didn't think this was that bad of a 5th place. It's like, I'm worried about them even beating, the next matchup. It's that bad, because it's like their prep work is just so disgusting. It's like, ever since that week 2 when they played like Nidalee and the patch landed, it seemed like they lost their identity completely and lost sense of themselves, because it's like, looking at their drafts, they had that one GX game where it's like that game where they went Skarner, Mel, Jace, Galio, and Jax. Just disgusting. I don't know where this came from. I really have no clue. But it is what it is. I'm just wanted to hit on them because they've bothered me. Something else I want to hit on, Thorin, is, of course, going online without ExpressVPN. It's like leaving your laptop unattended at the coffee shop while you run to the bathroom. That's crazy talk. Why would you ever do that? Maybe you've gone there too many times and you feel like it's safe, but what if that one time you do it, one day your laptop is just gone? You come out of the bathroom, your laptop is gone. Why would you put that kind of exposure on yourself? Of course, ExpressVPN works exactly the same way. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network, whether it's a cafe, hotel, airport, your online data is not secure. Any hacker on the same network can just access and steal your personal data. That can be passwords, bank logins, your crypto, whatever. Anything that you have on your PC is accessible. I can share an anecdote with you. I remember going to school, and we all had these MacBooks that we used, and we're all connecting to, of course, the school network. And then suddenly there was this application that was going around, very light application, where basically at one click of a button, you could see all the cookies that would just pass through the network. And at the time, everyone was just kids. So friends of mine, they were just using it to do Facebook statuses. It's like I pooped myself or something silly, on Facebook. And it was just so easy. And that has always stayed in my mind in terms of how scary it is. It's like, if you're on a network at the time, it's like that was only Facebook. But now everything is going through online. All your data is there, all your passwords, and just the horror of thinking if someone has access to my email, that just scatters to the access of everything else. And that is just a nightmare that you don't want to, of course, find yourself in. It doesn't take much technical knowledge to get it done. So, of course, stay safe. The data is very, very valuable. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per person selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN, of course, stops hackers from stealing your data by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. And ExpressVPN, we recommend it because it's super secure. It's very, very easy to use. You can just fire up the app and click one button, and then boom, you get protected. You can use it in many, many different locations. Like, they have servers everywhere, which is super, super useful. I use it. It's super, super nice. It works on all devices. Installing it is super, super smooth because there's just this code that you get, and you can just put it on multiple devices. There's no login. You just boom, slam it, the code in, and then you're good to go. Very, very simple. I use ExpressVPN, and of course, I endorse it. It's like I use it to unlock Netflix to the max. shows, whether there's websites that are inaccessible due to laws in your country, you can just get past that, freedom of mobility on the internet. It's like, why should you have, it's like having your internet access behind like some kind of a paywall, it's like as if your internet's behind like some DLCs that you need to purchase. No. ExpressVPN just unlocks your internet experience. So what are you waiting for? Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/summoning. That is expressvpn.com/summoning, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/summoning. Thank you, ExpressVPN, for, of course, sponsoring us and also for making an amazing product that I use on the daily.
Yes. I've actually used ExpressVPN in the past myself. And also, by the way, I'll tell you a modern day thing you alluded to there that people take for granted. Because I'm an expat, I don't live in the UK anymore. It's actually really frustrating that a lot of video content, believe it or not, Yamato, if it's about like Liverpool Football Club or football match, I see the tweet or the video where the video doesn't, first of all, show up in my feed because I know I can't watch it. It's like region locked. And then the tweet, I go to click it and it does that thing. This video cannot be played in your region. No. One click of a button and I can be watching that video. So yeah, it's mad useful. Right, I tell you what we should talk about, Yamato. Being as we wasted everyone's fucking time because we had to wait until LCK and LPL finished to do all those other episodes, talking about some of the fucking shittest LPL teams in the entire region. It's okay, they're all done, they're all out now, boys. Now we can actually talk this weekend about cooking for real, homie, because this weekend we actually have the good games, mate. Like we have, like, tell you what, listen, it's probably going to be depressing for us, but Invictus Gaming's playing TES, Copium. I think they're going to win, Yamato. I don't give a shit. So, listen, what do you think about this matchup? It's exciting, potentially.
Bro, the narratives coming into this are just crazy, right? It's like Jakob versus Rookie, that's what I'm focusing on, It's like I have Mako leaving top esports, playing against them. It's like it does like boiling down the matchup. It's like there's so many flaws with how IG play, even though like their last series was like okay, it was like a step in the right direction. We got some rookie gameplay. I think JJ is doing better and better. The Shy is not completely running it down. That's good. That's good. And it's like both of these teams are so lucky that they got this draw. Because they, like everybody else, was praying to play against these guys in this. Like Billy, Weibo Gaming, they were hoping not to get each other because I think that's like the most evenly match that you can have here. While Top East was an IG, it's like these teams are so flawed in the way they're playing right now. It's like 369. It's like I have protected this man for such a long time in terms of his level, but it's like, bro, like the fall off from 2023 coming into 2024 and now this year is completely crazy. I had the copium angle of reuniting with Kanavi is going to find his former self, but it's just not clicking. So you have like these two top lane legends in Deshai and 369 at the tail end of their career, in a sense, playing against each other. That's the crazy thing is because it's like they made the same point about How Alive. We talk about How Alive and like Genji. Like these are guys that are so experienced that 1 week with the right state of mind, they can just find it again. It's like always with players that have found such a high ceiling at some point, can kick it into gear. So there is a big potential for big fireworks, but there's also big potential for big disappointment. Because on paper, I'm with you, it's like Top East should be favorite, but LPL has been so strange this year that anything can happen.
Believe it or not, that's actually why I'm glad this is the matchup IG got. If I look at the other teams they could have gotten, I think they'd be in trouble, Yamato. But the good thing is, top esports will give you a chance in the game. That is the good. There are so many inters in these two teams right now, guys. It's going to be fucking bonkers, which is primo LPL if you think about what you like from the LPL. And then I'll also put this out there. Listen, I'm not saying IG will win. I don't even know that they win. It's hard for me to even think of how they'll win, but I believe they'll win. And if you understand that, that's how fandom works. So I get it. I understand it. I just don't pretend like, I know. You hate it if you say like, no, if you want to hate on IG, but they've given you a million fucking reasons so far. But I'm with you, Yamato. The reason why the star-studded lineups are so enticing and exciting is because it doesn't actually matter how they played 2 weeks ago and in the group stage. You're right. The right week of scrims with the right picks and the right sort of band-aids, this team could pop. This team could do some fucking magic. Listen, I'm so far gone. Like, you have to understand, Dom years ago tried to have the intervention. I'm so far gone. I still believe. Listen, he did do it at Worlds 2023. I still think the Shy can just somehow turn it on. I feel like I'll never give up on that motherfucker. I don't know why. I can't do it. I just can't cut you the shy. I just can't. Because the problem is, we all know when he does do like the fucking hand split. Oh, yes, some of the most glorious players ever in League of Legends. I used to tell people what sold me on him was I used to love carry top laners, but most carry top laners, mate, are actually very consistent. Their style's like, right, I'll consistently win the lane and then carry out the fights and, play around me. This guy had such an erratic style. I remember telling someone, the one thing that used to make League a bit whack was, especially in the first 5 to 6 years of League, the roles weren't even vaguely balanced. Like, not only were support and junglers super poor and didn't really have impact, but you used to even look at the carry roles and like top lane, everyone who's top lane fan knows, like mid laners had it easy the whole time. They had all the fucking easy champions in lane and they had all the super powerful AP items and they used to, by the way, in any assassin meta, it's just them like almost like funnel meta, just fucking 1v9 in the whole game with all the resources and eventually they're just taking all the farm as well from the top laner. But I tell you what, I remember saying, if you were to show someone who wasn't from League a highlight reel, obviously, yeah, you'd have picked like Faker, Rookie, maybe you'd pop an Uzi Eye in there or something. But then I said, when the Shy came along, I was like, bro, he plays top lane, which can be boring. And he actually might have like the best highlight reel ever. Like his highlight reel from LPL is fucking crazy, bro. There's the clips where like the casters themselves eventually just learn, like until he's dead, you can't call the fight over. Like he might just turn it in like 1v3 motherfuckers. Like, so it's been a while. It's been a while. But you know what? I'm there for it. I'm there for it, mate. Till the bitter end.
I'm gonna follow with you because the angle about top esports is that they have always looked shit in the decisive best of 5 that they need to play. It happened in MSI, it happened in Worlds, it happened in LPL as well. It's like now they begin in the lower bracket. It's like usually they just see themselves high enough to just start in the next round. It's like now they need to run a gauntlet, and that type of pressure is unique. I think Kanavi and Crisp are of course like different players. I feel like Crisp gets better when his back is against the wall, but it's like Jackie Love. As of recently, it's like I feel so bad for Jackie because the one year he didn't go to Worlds 2023, he was so damn good. But now 2024, he's been on the downturn, and also this year he doesn't look super impressive. I think also it's like Cream in terms of the stardom he reached last year after, of course, moving from OMG to this team. It was like, oh, this guy is going to be on the up and up and be the guy that potentially contests the name that is Knight, but and Scout and these guys. And there's been moments where he has, but now it's like Shanks is what I thought Cream would be. Shanks is that guy. So who is Cream now? It's like everyone bans Yone against you. What is unique about Cream? You need to bring it out here and of course show up against Rookie. It's like I believe in Rookie still because it's like we've seen his bad and his worst the split, and we've seen some good. I do think that I hold on to that Rookie spring split from last year and also the summer run so dearly to my heart, and I'm hoping that as the series goes deeper that we get to see like a classic Rookie LeBlanc and he gets to show up big time. But with some of the moments that he's shown, like I'm ready to be heartbroken, bro. I'm so ready to be heartbroken by the series.
And by the way, the reason why, if everyone's wondering earlier, like, why did Thorin imply that Kosanwa Life won? They're the best team in the world. Because I then watched last week fucking Thunder Talk beat BLG. And by the way, they could have like 3-0'd them. Like, holy, mate, they made BLG work so hard to win those games. It was crazy. Like, BLG basically had to just like, it's like some fucking Star Trek shit. Like, divert the dilithium crystals to the hands and just try and out-hands them. Like, fuck it, they had to go crazy and they still lost. So as a result, by the way, BLG, the team everyone just put automatically first place this split, has to start at the lower bracket if they're going to win this split. Like, this is some crazy shit. And now they're playing Weibo. And I'll tell you what, I think Weibo's a mad fucking all over the place team. But if Thunder Talk can beat you, mate, we have to open the door that Weibo could just knock you straight out. This could happen.
It's bro, the bracket is so backwards. I legit thought the teams that are bottom 4 would be the upper one. It's so crazy to even consider. It's so wild. It's like the other matchup, Bilibili Weibo game. I agree. It's like Weibo have enough of a game understanding, do enough high level shit to potentially beat Bilibili. Because right now, Bilibili, the main thing for me that's so concerning is, bro, this whole jungle situation. Bro, it's like how Shun left this team is not because of competitive things. So he wanted to, like, he helped, what is it, like the IG manager tried to poach Knight and Bin, and that's why he just got like completely expelled. Well, when probably like he was just a better player for this team, because Wei looks like all kinds of ass. It's like, you know, you have these junglers like fucking Peanut and Canyon underperforming. This needs a different fucking phrasing, what Wei is doing. Like, he is so trash. And it's a big problem, because right now jungle is a role that is very dynamic. Like, we can see how much Lucid can do in these games. Like, he is being a big difference maker when he's playing like the Lilia and so forth. And Weibo Gaming, they have Tian. Like, this is a guy that can definitely like snowball games. And I agree with like with what you say, like the TT game. It's like, bro, like what Knight and Bin needed to do to like drag them over the finish line in these games was way too much, bro.
Like, it was the
and dust out like Jackson, Silas, bro. Like, come on, man.
It's ridiculous. It's
Those
like
are secret weapons.
they look like they're trying to win World's Finals to just get back in the series against Thunder Talk, for fuck's sake. By the way, about 90% of you watching this show, pause the thing, don't look it up on Google. Can you even name all 5 players on Thunder Talk? Of course you fucking can't. Of course you can't. It doesn't even make sense, does it? It's ridiculous.
Oh, man.
And I agree with you. If we then flip the bracket, right, guys, this isn't like one of the great all-time great JDG lineups. How the fuck is the winner of Thunder Talk and JDG in the upper bracket going to finish top fucking top 3 in this tournament? Like, what's going on in the league? Because, bro, that's a fucking, like you say, that should be like a group stage matchup, and it's going to be an upper bracket semi-final. And by the way, the way they played against BLG, why can't they beat JDG? That's plausible.
For sure, because it's crazy, because it's like these like, I watched all of those shitty LPL games of last year, and I thought the moment these guys lose UCal, that is going to go to shit.
Yeah.
It's like they bring in C-Tab, like this guy was not good. and this series, bro, they played out of their mind. It's like 1xN is a player that I have. Like he is so damn good. Like, he just deserves to be on a better team.
Yeah.
He is so insane. Like, he's had performances. Like, it is arguably, like, if someone told me he's the best performing AD in the league, I would say, fuck yeah, bro. He's a stud. But everybody else is also playing well. It's like Beishwan was the guy who had like such a low ceiling, but also at the same time, like sometimes high floor, high ceiling. Sorry, I reversed it. And now he was just consistent in that series. Like, he was so much better than Wei, and this team is like coming together, bro. Like, it's so exciting, because they show like a lot of dynamic gameplay. They seem very, very decisive in their play, and it's a very big deal to take the opportunity to beat Bilibili when you can, because I've seen many games where Bilibili was behind last year and nobody could take them down. They would drop us a game or two, and then Bilibili would just do the thing where they pick Jackson, Silas, and they were like, okay, you're fucking with us, we're gonna fuck you back, and you're gonna regret that you did this. You know, you awoken the demon here. But even that part, they overcame that hurdle. They had some good ideas in draft, and I think the series against JDG, you know, JDG is a team that is very incohesive still. It's like a lot of those games, it's like, especially the last series they played, was like Ale and Scout just like really, really outperforming the opponent. And if you come into a series where a team is like cohesive and has like a lot of game ideas in terms of how they execute, they will punish players that are slacking. Like if of course Pace is not performing or Missing is not performing, which is, you know, not unlikely with what we've seen so far, TT could definitely win this one.
And then I'll set you up with the narratives for this last series, bro, because spoiler, the LPL is not just bad guys. It's going to now, these playoffs are going to be the best. It's going to be the best region for this split. It just is. So if you think about this narrative, right? Anyone's legend, the team Monty hyped, they have actually just been super fucking good. They look really good. And if you know the career of Tabe, this will be his actual, you know, fucking masterpiece, his magnum opus if he gets this team to the finals or wins the bloody thing and goes to first stand. And here's where you couldn't get a more perfect narrative, because you have Shanks, this guy who, as you say, he's ready to be cream. He's ready to take that step up and be like, actually, you know what? People are looking, move aside. It's my time now. You used to be the Kings. So who do you put him against? The person who right now is just the final boss of the fucking LPL, it is Doinb. And I tell you, this is why it has to be Doinb, guys. Because if you look at his team, I still, every time I see the names, don't believe they're doing this shit. I refuse to believe those players are all really sick players, and this is awesome. This guy is just cracked. So I'll tell you what, Shanks is a really good mid laner, but bro, Doinb is one of those players I do think is on like the chess master. He's playing StarCraft, mate. You know what I mean? He's not just playing the champion. And by the way, he does have great champions. He does have sick mechanics now. He's got mega ballsy, like fucking go button, but he also has that like mastermind component. It's why when he gets on stream, people always see he has the craziest takes. They'll sometimes say a take, you're like, what the fuck? He's one of those people back in the day, like Diamond Proximate, where if they say something I don't agree with, I'm like, you know what? I better actually really think about what he said there, because this guy's a fucking master of the game. Like, if he has an angle or a perspective on something, there's probably something to that. Like, even if he expresses it in a harsh manner, because I think this guy's just a genius at League of Legends, mate. It's so much fun to watch. So to BO5 now, he was cooking in fucking the BO5s in the group stage. Let's see where I want to see like the champions that are going to be pulled out in this series, bro. What the fuck is this going to be? Are you hyped?
I'm so fucking hyped. You know, so I wasn't sold at all. I was so skeptic, but now like I'm fully aboard. You know, like I can share the story of what Bo said, what it was like to play with Doinb. He just straight up said, I don't need to think. I just farm and kill and everything. Like it was just, he said it was the easiest, because during that period, I think they went 12-0 when they played with Bo, and Bo was just expressing himself mechanically, and everything was just handed to him. It's like, just fight. They put him in the ring. There was no logistics, there was no bus, there was no ticket, there was nothing. They put him in the ring, like they just placed him there. And like Doinb, like there was this question we had on I think like 3 episodes back. It's like, who is the player that raises like the floor of a team? But every Doinb team is just so damn good. It's like these guys, it's like Leave is insanely inconsistent. PP Gold was like, is it like decent player? I think Aki was like terrible last year, but now this team is looking cohesive. Like the only knock against him, if anything, I do think the eye test for Doinb looks insane. So I think that he's going to perform either way. But now in the aftermath, especially with how IG has been playing, that group they were in was not good. Like that group was ass. And that is like the only weird thing about LPL is that the group parities here, and like just because it was based off a seeding from last year, is very, very goofy. Like some of these teams didn't have a lot of resistance. Some of these teams did have resistance. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out too, because now, as much as it hurts to say, this is NIP's like first really, really big test, because that IG series looked very easy for them.
And also, logically, then I actually know how we could have fixed Southmade's career. He just had to play with Doinb. Then all he would do is turn his brain off, farm, and then fight. So there you go. You could have been a champion, bro. Just turned out you only needed Doinb, one of the greatest players of all time from an Asian region who speaks Korean. So aside from that, yeah, you could have had a good career. Not bad.
We tried with EU Doinb, bro. We tried with Niski. The EU Doinb didn't work, bro.
True, you did. That is actually true. They did. They really did try. But anyway, it's all good. He's still delivering pizzas. Not even a Civer player. Okay.
To get anyone's legend though, I have to say, I think Kyle, bro, this guy has looked like
he's
the
had
best.
a glow up and a half, hasn't he? Yeah, fucking hell.
So damn good. And Flandre, like where is this Flandre coming from, bro? He was shaping the meta with the Jace and so forth. Like Flandre looks really, really revitalized, and you know,
I'll tell you just mate. You mentioned him earlier. Everyone who doesn't watch the LPL loves to tell you Tarzan's overrated. Maybe internationally he is, but bro, every time he goes to the LPL, put him on any team, mate. This guy just does work. He's just a really good player.
100%. Basically, it's like Scout and Tarzan play together, but in terms of how people talk about Scout is exactly how they talk about Tarzan too. Tarzan doesn't have a world championship under his belt, but it's like if you just look at the sheer volume in terms of like how he performs over the, let's say, 95% of the games that he plays like a player that should be in the conversation of like just best performing jungler. It's like that school of players like Kanavi, Tarzan. I always feel like they always get put in that same boat because of one series that they play. But in reality, it's like to get to those tournaments, it's like your effort in LPL should matter. But most people don't watch LPL, sadly. We don't even have a broadcast.
No, that is actually a bomber, isn't it? Right, here's the thing, Yamato. This sport video is brought to you by Squarespace. Because what is Squarespace, you might ask? Well, funny that you should ask, Thorin. I'll now answer you, Thorin. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms. So they have a whole bunch of features. This is what I get to pick out which ones to say. So first of all, they have the design intelligence, where they basically use cutting edge, industry leading AI technology, which can help unlock your creative potential, basically helps you like design the website itself. You just sort of tell you what it want and it'll make the rest for you so it looks awesome. It allows anyone, literally anyone, you don't have to know anything about really like websites, computers much particularly, to design beautiful, more personalized websites tailored to their unique needs and craft a bespoke, that just means like unique to you and crafted for you, digital identity to use across one's entire online presence. By the way, you can also hook in all your social products to this as well. They have a great thing called Squarespace Payments, which is the easiest way to manage your payments in one place with Squarespace. Onboarding, that basically means like getting set up and all the forms. It's really simple, fast. You can get started in just a few clicks and then suddenly you're receiving payments already right away. And you can also give your customers more ways to pay you using all the popular methods. Lastly, I'll just mention that if you are someone who wants to sell content or something like that, maybe you're someone from League, maybe you've got your own idea to do some sort of a coaching service or a content service, or you want something to do a paywall, like they make it easy to sell access to content on your websites, like online courses, blogs, videos, and memberships. Earn recurring revenue by gating your content behind a paywall, a bit like I've done with my Substack. Simply set the price and choose whether to charge a one-time fee or subscription for access. Now, how do you access all of this? Well, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, squarespace.com/summoning, so code summoning, to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So that's squarespace.com/summoning. Thank you to Squarespace. Thanks to anyone who actually makes a cool website using this. I've actually seen it before. It's a pretty cool product. And obviously, thank you to them for sponsoring the podcast. Now, let's do a very quick break and then we'll come back. We've got time and we'll do some viewer questions and we'll get into it. Yeah?
Let's do it.
Right, this is going to be the final segment of the show. And actually, we've appropriately scheduled some time for it instead of just talking for 4.5 hours and then having to really rush through it, which is viewer questions, of course. How do you ask viewer questions? Again, I ask myself, Thorin, and then respond to myself. Well, the answer is you subscribe to the Last Free Nation Discord, one of the best ways because we get a really good rev cut. And then there's a channel in there under crew members, because remember, we've got the theme that you're joining our pirate utopia, as it were. It's called SI Questions. There's also, by the way, if you subscribe, you can also submit hot takes to League of Legends, Hot Take Point Made, where I'll bring some of those onto the episodes, and the Four Horsemen if you watch that show. So if you go into SI Questions, you can submit them there. I will now read some of the questions from that section. Shout out to everyone who subscribes, obviously. Right, question number 1. It is by Nadnerb, which is just Brendan written backwards. That was like a thing from Counter-Strike back in the day to write your name backwards or whatever. Here's the question. I'll start with you, Yamato. Are Chovy and Knight in your top 5 League of Legends players of all time?
Damn. I do think in the conversation of like highest, like let's say ceilings achieved in terms of like certain contexts, I do think there's been moments in time where they have like been the best at what they do. The main issue is like if when I think of like the best players, I still have the memory of like all the early years and the early seasons, and it's like Rookie comes to mind, like Zhao comes to mind, Ruler comes to mind. There's just like a lot of players that just have way more longevity in years that are very, very important in my mind, and still have found ways to be very active now in a significant way. So it's hard for me to let them surpass that. But if I think of the conversation, like if I frame that question through like best individual performance, it's like then yeah, these guys are in the conversation. And maybe if I think about it a little bit longer and I give them maybe a year or 2 more, because they are still just insanely good players, they are currently in the years of pushing themselves up that ladder. Yeah, it's like the last 4 years of League of Legends, we have the new names: Zeus, Chovy, Bin, Knight. These guys, eventually they will get there, because over time, these later years will be just more significant.
For me, it's a question. It's a dynamic I keep setting up. That like if someone asks me who the GOAT is, and GOAT has to include accomplishments, then Faker has to be the GOAT. But if you ask me who the best is, I think it was Rookie. So it depends. If by the top you mean like the 5 best League players, they could make this list, absolutely. Because look, if they don't have to win Worlds, and by the way, Knight was like that far from winning Worlds his last time around. If you don't have to win Worlds, consider this. They've both been impossibly dominant domestically and won loads of championships, including in a row. They've both been like League MVPs. They've both now won MSI and in the era of the double elim format. So this is everything but Worlds at this point in time. And then you look at their body of work, bro. This is how I know people just hate on you unless you win Worlds. They've already put together a body of work that, like, in terms of individual years where they're like possibly the best mid laner, they probably have more than Faker at this point in time. Like, they're at that sort of level. Like, they've had a lot. It's been like 4 or 5 in a year at this point in time. Like, in a row, rather. Like, in a row, like half a decade, these guys have just been at the top of their regions. So if I was going to make a really quick list, I will say it does look like mid laners, but that's just what League of Legends was. If I had to give you a quick 5 best League players ever, yeah, maybe I would do like Rookie, Faker, Def, Chovy, Knight. That's a pretty good fucking list right there. Look at that one. So everyone's got longevity, elite play, crazy hands. Most of them have won Worlds or MSI. Like, it's a pretty good list, mate. I mean, I'm with you. There's a long, long time where I wouldn't let like the youngsters who didn't watch them say, like, hey, whoa, let's have a conversation about meta now. Hey, let's talk about like fucking, these GOAT players. Obviously, there's top players that could get in the list, but these guys have really cooked. I mean, the joke at this point in time, especially after the last 2 years, is the only thing they haven't done is win Worlds. That's it. Everything else, they've just been fucking unbelievable. And it's not like they've played bad at every Worlds. I'll never hear that. And certainly they've had times where they got out. I don't even think in this particular one, in this final, Knight, I couldn't even say he choked the final. It's the other way around. Faker went above. I mean, look, it was a crazy flashback, but they didn't choke. They played good enough to win against almost anyone that day.
Oh, it's crazy to think about how like the new generation in like ever since like the 2020s, it's like we have so many strong players that are making arguments for just being like the GOAT in their position. It's like Zeus and Bin are like 2 favorites for me, right, in terms of what they've done. I do agree that mid lane is just too central, and it's a role that changes so much. So to be dominant for such a long time is just so impressive, because most of the time it's like top lane is like the same champions are being played over and over again, and there's a beauty in that too. But being like competitive in mid is just so damn hard. It's just so damn difficult.
I want you to quickly look in the group chat, like look at the message, and don't say it out loud. Just quickly read this, and you got a few seconds. Just tell me, can I ask this question or not? If it's vetoed, it's vetoed. Just quickly check it.
All right.
Would you veto this question?
Yeah, but we can go for it.
Because I don't mind. I don't give a fuck. You know me, bro.
Go for it.
So the question from friend of the show, Bot Powder 420. I mean, look, it's a hell of a philosophical sort of shower thought. Would you rather be a furry? So that's someone who somehow like sexually identifies with like potentially even imaginary animals or something like, or a vegan. And a vegan, remember, is not a vegetarian. It's someone who doesn't eat vegetables or meat or any animal products. You can't even have butter. You can't have milk. So it's actually quite a, look, it's not, as long as you're not offended by it, it's actually quite a wild question. What would you, which angle, what does your gut tell you? Which way you're leaning on this one?
I don't know, like having my own persona. Like it does seem like they have like a great sense of community, you know, like they just like community is something that is rare nowadays, you know. Like I could imagine that there's some aspects that get weird, because like going vegan. Like my brother was vegan, right? So my brother was vegan, and he did it for like he wasn't like the type of vegan that would just throw it in your face all the time, but he would always give me like the rationale. It's like, oh, we're eating eggs. That's actually chicken, period. And you know what they're doing with farm animals and all this jazz. But he was competing in bodybuilding and doing that at the same time. He was just eating like beans and beetroot juice, perma. His teeth would be like bloodshot red, you know, because he would just have to compensate. Then at some point he's like, bro, like why am I suffering? That's CBA. And then he just cut it out. It's like removing that. It's such a tough bargain. So I think I would just be a furry. Like it just depends on what degree. It's like, do I have to stream with my furry costume? Can I be like the Sonic Fox guy and just do it occasionally? You know, put my hat on. Like I don't know what level of extremes you can do, like the fursona. Because maybe that's just maybe I just go to a convention every now and then, and I just meet up with other like-minded people. Vegan is like, it's like, can I eat fish? No, it's like extreme. It's like, boom. So I'll probably be a furry.
What's crazy is I'm going to agree, and the reason why is quite similar. It might sound mad, like obviously the most extreme one sounds like furry initially, right? Doesn't it? Because it's such like a weird lifestyle. But what people are missing is this, Yamato. You don't have to have the fursuit on all the time. You can do that in private, and also at the end of the day, I hope this is true, they're not actually having sex with animals. They're just having sex with other humans dressed as animals. So spoiler, you can still have sex with a straight fire woman. She just is dressed in a weird animal suit. And you know what? At the end of the day, We've all had sex with the lights out, mate. It still feels nice. You know, you don't have to be looking at them. So who cares? And you know what? At the end of the day, maybe there is some sort of fucked up repressed memory where I do want to fuck Tails. Maybe that is a thing. But enough about Sonic 2 and not letting people use the controls that was plugged in. Anyway, you all get the joke on that one. That fucking helicopter ass. You know, whatever. It's fucking... Meanwhile, I know. Meanwhile, I've got to say, I know it sounds mad, but I just can't stomach the idea of being a vegan. Like, spoiler, I do keto, bro. I am the anti-vegan. Like, I'd have nothing to eat. Like, by the way, I'll tell you a quick example. Like, he won't mind this story because he's a cool ass guy. There's a guy who does Counter-Strike events. He's the stage host called OJ Borg. And the thing is, he's actually like a radio host in the UK. So he has like a mad fucking charismatic personality. When we did an event in ESL New York, I booked everyone into this like straight fire Korean barbecue, and he came along with us, and I went, why have you come here, bro? You are aware the only vegetables I can even offer you are like those really basic ones on like the side, like the banchan and that. You're just going to be eating that the whole night and suffering, watching us eating galbi. You're like, no more, no. Like, and we're going to eat loads of it. So I could never be that guy, I'm afraid. I would rather literally, yes, fuck tails than eat vegetables. Right. It's a hell of a question right there, isn't it? I know. Right. Now the question is from Hellfire 206 says, do either of you enjoy Sunday League or lower league football? Because basically he's a fan of anyway, whatever. There's a bunch of shit. There's a shit story I don't care about that he tells there. Essentially, the question is, do you have like a small local team you follow or anyone you watching low level of football? Are you into it?
Right, I never really like care for watching, but I did play it. You know, it's like in Sweden we have this thing called Korpen, which is like basically it's just like a bunch of teams. It's like these are the firefighters, this is the police squad, right, and these are the homies. Sure. You know, these are the homies. It was like there's just a bunch of adults playing, and it was just the most fucked up variant of football because you play on like the 7-man fields. And it's like we would just play every week and we just have like subs in, but it was just so goofy because it's like my team, like everyone would just like smoke cigarettes and smoke joints on the sidelines during the game. Then you get subbed out, and it's like there was only one referee that barely gave a fuck, and people just kicked each other like violently, like it just turned into like all out brawls. But it was fun, you know. It was always fun because all of us, like in Sweden, the football culture is just so extreme. Everyone grew up playing football. Everyone grew up just being active. And then it's like a part of you wants to be like, oh, I could have been great. And I could have been one of the pro footballers, but I had to do something else. So that ego, it plays into that ego perfectly. You get to play games, you get to like score 5 times because nobody gives a shit. And then you just get to get together with the boys, you know. So that would be my variant because it was always on Sunday. So other than that, nowadays, bro, like fucking League Sundays are crazy in League of Legends. So I have no fucking free time, brother.
No, the answer for me is definitely no. If people don't know, in all games, normally people say you're an elitist as an insult. I take that as a compliment. Yeah, I only like elite things. So it's why on my stream when people go, what about this TV show? Shove it up your ass, mate. I want to see the best TV shows, not some slop where you're like, hey, look, this new Star Wars isn't bad. It's like, then it's for you, bro. You can keep that. You keep all the not bad shit. I'll take all the fucking excellent stuff. Here's a question along those lines, Yamato. Obviously, you don't have to go crazy. He's made this insanely wide. Just give us a couple. He says, the Morgster says, Yamato, what are some of your favorite films / TV shows / books / So we're not doing all 4 fucking categories, you greedy little, you know what. I would have said the other word there, but I want the video to be monetized. Right? Just give me a couple. Just give me like 2 or 3 things across the whole spectrum. Don't do one each. Just give me 2 or 3 things. So either film, TV show, book, or music. What are some of your favorites?
Bro, I like music. It's like I have all these vinyls behind me. It's like I'm a super big just Kendrick Lamar fan. Like I remember like when I listened to it the first time. Like for me, it's Good Kid, Mad City. There was like this video recently. It's like there was like this video which was super funny. It was like this Kendrick Lamar hater, self-proclaimed Kendrick Lamar hater that obviously hadn't listened to Kendrick Lamar. But then as he listened to one of the most legendary songs of Kendrick called "Just Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst," he just starts like shedding tears. He just starts crying. Like he just starts crying because like I appreciate a musician or like an artist that does it for the purpose of the art. It's like everything is so commercialized nowadays in terms of how everything is distributed. It's all about just getting it most eyeballs, and then it just doesn't last. I love the fact that I can go back to Kendrick's first album, and it's just like a piece of art that stands the test of time because of the effort and the meticulous nature of it. And I feel like whenever that shines through, I love it. So it's like in terms of films, it's like if that's my follow-up, anything that Tarantino has made and anything that Nolan has made, just look at that list, and that's me. That's me. Personal favorites, like Nolan, a movie that some people didn't like at least the people that I talked to, Dunkirk. That's one of my personal favorites because I think like just the tone setting is just so fucking insane.
Tense, isn't it?
It's so tense in terms of how they like are at the beach and they're waiting for the boats, and in terms of how all the storylines kind of come together. The storytelling of that is just like a personal favorite, and people in my circle hate that fucking movie.
No. By the way, I'm a massive fan of Nolan, but most people actually was just like Tenet. They were super out on Dunkirk. But I always tell people, look, to be fair, I am British and English. So, mate, if you're British, especially, like the shit with the fucking little boats, that's some cutting onions time, mate. That's some that shit in it. Yeah, that's dope in it. Right, okay, the question wasn't for me anyway, so it's all good.
No, I want to hear, bro. I want to hear. What are yours, bro?
Then, right? So if we're going across a few of them, I'll give you a few. Just like I'll try not to do the most obvious ones that people have heard. So if you want a music one of my favorite artists of all time is the electronic group called Boards of Canada. So if you look up almost any of their work, but like there's an album they have called Music Has the Right to Children. It's really, it's all like ambient synths and stuff, Yamato, with like a little bit of beats behind them, and they've got like kind of like a weird hippie vibe. So they're not trying to do anything mainstream or have like charting music. It's just essentially the thing about their music that's really iconic. Everyone says this is even though it's from the 90s and 2000s, electronic music, they somehow managed to make it sound like they'll do all stuff like put like tape warping on it and scratches on the sound. So it sounds really nostalgic. It makes you think you're like listening to something from the 80s. And so I just find the atmosphere around that's phenomenal. And also I don't use like Spotify and stuff, but if I did, that would be like my number one played artist, not least because that's also the sort of music every time I Puff the Magic Dragon, that's the soundtrack that I'm listening to. Exactly. And if I want to go with a book, my people probably already know I'm a massive fan of like the Dune series, for example. So I'll give you a different one. If you want a book that I think is unbelievable, it's actually a comic book, but here's the thing. It's not a Western comic book. It's a European comic book. And if you don't know, European comics don't have a bunch of codes around what you can show. You can show sex, violence, crazy stuff. So there's one by the guy. He's a visionary film director, actually, called Alejandro Jodorowsky. And he did a comic book called The Techno Priests, which you just have to look it up. It's a crazy concept. And the art is really bonkers. And it's just like you buy it in like a big prestige sort of like thick thing like this. That's all like slick pages. The art's massive. It's not like a thin comic. Just check it out. It's a fucking amazing one-off story that's like all in one book. And then I always say my favorite TV show is Seinfeld. I think that's the most.
Damn, that's great. I'm rewatching Seinfeld right now, bro. I love that shit, bro. It's my go-to rewatch, bro.
I tell people the best thing about it is it's not a series, so you can just start. Like for example, I think the last season was the best one. You can start on those episodes, guys. Each episode is self-contained, and they're all. By the end of the show, the writing is so tight that spoiler. Each of the three characters, four characters, sorry, each of them has their own storyline, but they always start distinct and then interweave, and the way that it's written to interweave is genius. Like I'll give you an example. One of my favorite ones ever, it's the ones where they get up to hijinks, Yamato. Like the one where like Jerry wants to like swap from one roommate as his girlfriend to the other one. And then they sit up all night figuring out how you're going to do this. I won't give the
menage a trois. Oh shit, I'm spoiling.
There's also another one where the premise goes that Kramer and Newman figure out that you know when you return the bottle, you get the deposit. They figure out in one state, because you know they always do it, but services apply except in Connecticut. They find out in one state you get like more money for the bottle caps. They're trying to run the numbers on how could we get all the bottles from this one place to this next one. Anyway, that's the shit I like, the crazy hijinks and sort of schemes and shit. Because you watch it and you think it's just a bunch of people talking in a coffee shop. No, it's the imagination of the show that's genius. So there you go. There's some bangers for you.
This is a show about nothing, is it?
That's why it's so hard to sell people on it though, but it's straight fire. All you need to know is this as well. It even has a laugh track. That doesn't even spoil it. It's so good it doesn't even spoil it as a laugh track.
You know, I wanted to ask you, like, it was Board of Canada, was the name of it?
Boards of Canada, yes.
Boards of Canada. And have you listened to any Kendrick? Have you listened to any Kendrick?
I'm not a huge Kendrick fan, mate, because the problem is...
Have you listened to it?
I have listened to some Kendrick Lamar, yeah.
Okay.
I
Because I
mainly
wanted to
listen
make
to
a
the
trade,
stuff.
I explore your favorite album, you
Tell you
explore my
what,
favorite album.
I'll try the album you said, because the only ones I heard are the ones he did like 10 years ago, basically. Like, if I look up quickly what his albums were.
It
I
was,
listened to Pimp a Butterfly and to the Damn albums. I heard those ones. I didn't mind the Pimp a Butterfly one. Problem is, I haven't been in the more recent shit. So I haven't listened to the one you're talking about, Good Kid, Mad City. I'll go check that
Okay.
out. You
And
check
you
out
have to tell me.
Born
Okay.
in Canada. Music
All
has a
right.
right to
We'll
children.
talk about it in the next
We'll
one.
reconvene. Yes, we'll reconvene.
Sounds good.
Right. Kiku asks the question. He said, I love the analogy made by Thorin about the two styles of ADCs. You have the mechanically crazy and cocky players, Uzi, Viper, Upset, he means the old Upset, obviously, versus the safer, more disciplined, like Deft, Reckless, and Pays. Right? He then just asks, obviously we could do this a lot, so we'll just pick one or two. What other different categories would you use for other roles? Are there ones that come to mind for you in other roles?
I think for mid has always been a question of carry versus facilitator, but there's been a little bit more crossover now in recent times. But it was always like in terms of jungle and mid lane pairings, there was always like the giver and the taker in a sense. It's like we made that comment about Xiao and Tia not being a pair that makes a lot of sense because Xiao was the type of guy to be, functioning very, very well on his own and doesn't require a lot of resources to be impactful and wants to just be put into fights together with his jungler. And Tian functions the same way, like very low resource, sets up his teammates for success. So I think those are the two ones that come to mind instantly. I think the same thing you could say about top lane too is like you have more like the tank players, the weak side players, but now you are like game is just developing in a way that if you are a top player and you can't do both, you're just not good. Like the specialists, like players need to be good at everything because meta changes, meta shifts, especially like in a fearless context. Zeus is a good example. Last year at Worlds, boom, he was tanking dives, playing weak side after having the previous Worlds performance where you're just like 1v9ing on these counter picks. So you need to have a wider range when you come at the top. But in terms of roster building, you need to look at these details because in the end, if you have like players that are specialists in certain things, you can definitely fall into traps where we see that very often when it isn't like a top-end team, like a Gen G, like Hanwha Life roster. T1 is a great example, right? It's like Doran is not the same player as Zeus, and it didn't work with Gumayushi because those are players that are kind of setting your teammates up for success. And then Smash came in, he's more of a carry, and then all of a sudden Doran makes sense, right?
I would say a classic one, it's just always existed, is like the lane support versus the roaming support. That's always been an interesting dynamic. Because by the way, to this day, you can still be both. Like that's actually one of the coolest things about. I actually think League's at its best when nearly all the roles can sort of play both. You can have the safe farm jungler, you can have the crazy maniac Malrang gank all the day long. I think it's at its best when both exist, and then you get to see people use the different styles and build different combos together. Right, by the way, there's loads of questions, we won't do them all. Right, Tallahassee Riot Supervisor says, how likely do either of you think it is that more NA talent will come to EU with the LTA on its last leg? So a la George up here. Do you think someone else who's like an NA talent will come to EU, Yamato?
Like I think it's like the name that comes to mind, right? I think like Masu, Yeon, like in terms of 80 carries, North American talent is there, but the issue is like 80 carries in Europe are already stacked. There's no incentive for a team, like player that is on a top 2 team to move over, because in terms of like the most talented players over in North America, it's like, maybe like some of the guest players could come over into a lower end team, but the drop off is just so harsh. It's like, if you think about the legendary players, like the that are carrying, it's like, oh, you have Inspired, European player, Whippo, Go JJ, Impact. Like them coming over, is it going to be a spectacle? I'm not so sure if it is. And I think like when I think of NA talent, it is those two 80 carries and maybe Busio, but I don't see that that type of movement. I can't see it happen in the current landscape of things.
Yes. No, to me, the real problem is, as you say, like, we're not talking about just players in that region. Like, I can't have, like, River come over or something. It has to be, like, an actual NA player. So the issue is, I just don't think you have the talent right now. Like, Jojo Pion was the last of the lineage of the fucking Doublelifts and the super sick, like, actual NA players that were really dope. I don't think you've got many now. And then I'll just throw it there. I also think they wouldn't want to come. I think, one, they wouldn't want to be in LEC. They want to be in LTA. And then two, I think a lot of them wouldn't like to move from fucking LA to Berlin. Like, I don't think... Or if they did, they'd regret it 2 weeks in, put it that way. Like you're saying about that fucking shit on Twitter or something, mate. They'd try going to the supermarket on a Sunday and go, what, it's closed? Like, yeah, welcome to like 21st century. That's still Berlin. Yes, that's right. They still close the fucking, you can't buy bread or milk or anything. Like, it's the same in Italy, by the way. They have the same weird thing on a Sunday. Right. The dog, it's actually a question about the sack down. He says, in the last sackdown, Mithy said in the pre-2018 off-season, he pushed for TSM to get Smithy, and he implied TSM didn't want him and instead picked up Mike Young. I also heard the same story. I heard it's like Bjergsen wanted Mike Young or something. Smithy went on to win the next 4 LCS championships. What is the biggest self-sabotage an LOL org has ever done to itself? What would you pick? What's the craziest move that like destroyed the whole team or something? What are you thinking of?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is Rogue.
That is pretty up there, isn't it?
It's like, bro, Advi and Trimby trade, like going from being like a team that wins a championship to just destroy yourself and implode is crazy. Like, that's the first one that comes to mind. What comes into your mind?
Oh, that's a good one. I will say the saddest thing of all is that you remember that Rogue lineup won the split, made it out of the group, beat like top teams in the world, and you never got to see them play again. That is, I always wanted to know, even if they'd fallen off, I want to see it happen. I want to see the run back. Come on. I mean, a good one to me would be, because it's so crazy. Remember when Misfits was the org that was just gradually on the year, they would get like good lineups, and then they were like, they had the one that made the season 7, and then they made that super team where it was like, bro, even when I list the names now, you're going to be like, I'm in. So it was Soaz right off the season 8, by the way. Hans Sama, who you all love now. Feberman was still a stud. You had Gorilla from fucking legendary Gorilla come in. Yeah, Maxwell wasn't as famous, but he was thought actually as like a good jungler. And this lineup, it just couldn't work. Like it was, and it actually for real over history tanked the Misfits org, and Misfits isn't even a team anymore now. Like it's actually crazy. Like that was their chance. They spent big on that roster. I'm telling you guys, that was them trying to say, you know what? Let's actually be a G2 and Fnatic. And at the time it was such a hype roster, but holy fuck, it never worked. It just completely destroyed itself. And then after that, they had to go over like the budget route again. And then, pick up the odd player. And it's just sad. Just a sad one.
They made out like bandits in the end, bro. Like they sold their slot at a good time.
That is true.
Became a content team.
Orgs wish they could get sabotaged like that, I guess. Yeah, get the 20, 30 mil at the end, true. Like Age Young says, this is a good one. Is 2019 Griffin the greatest assembly of talent in league history? Because besides Sword, they had Doran, Tarzan, Chovy, Viper, Lehens. Technically, he's cheating a bit here, but supposedly Kanavi was going to come through as well from CV, and the coach was CV Max. What do you think? Greatest assembly of talent in league history?
I have to say, it's like considering what name value they had before this, it just has to be, right? Like maybe you could argue that like 2013 T1, right, in terms of like them putting together those like solo queue players, but it was just at the point in time where it was just so fucking raw that any new roster was just an assembly of like solo queue talent. So it was like a lot easier to like pinpoint those players. But the fact that they managed to do it in the year of 2019 is kind of crazy, because if anything, CV Max has had like a good eye for talent. Like that's the main thing that I would give him like credit for, because like in the end, like he pushed for Korea to play 2, I believe. Like he's had a crazy eye for talent, and also like those players, like I remember the stories. It was like like CV Max was a very strong player in the beginning, and he would like challenge the players individually in 1v1s and push them so fucking harsh, and he like at the time, maybe if they didn't meet at that point in time, they wouldn't become the players that they were because of the influence he had on them, like in terms of the stories that I've heard, in terms of how he pushed them. Because I remember also not thinking too highly about these players until they started their run. They were just another name in my mind.
I think it certainly deserves consideration. I've got 3 others that I'll put forwards as potential like teams of just thinking of these names. How about that KT Rolster super team, mate? Smeb, fucking Score, Pawn, Deft, and Matter. Like, even to this day, how did they not win everything? Their team take out Pawn to win anything. That doesn't even make sense on paper, bro. That one's crazy. That is nuts, that lineup.
It's so sad what happened to Pawn, right? With like the injury, and Yukal had to come in, because it's like we scrimmed that team 2018. Like there was 2 teams who scrimmed 2018, and IG and KT would just destroy us to the point where like, okay, they are winning worlds. Like, they are winning worlds. But the main thing that stood out about KT was that like Jizuki was just solo killing Yukal over and over again. Like he was just murdering him. And that was a big stark contrast, because when we scrimmed against Rookie, Rookie at that point in time was was basically like a machine. Like he was basically Chovy then in terms of how he moved, how he laned, and how he pressured. Like it was just like surreal how he played. But definitely that KT roster is like immense. You said you had two more. I'm curious now.
They're two ruler teams. 2023 JDG's a banger, mate. That's a fucking sick lineup. And then, you know what? It hasn't done it yet, but you look at the 4 names on this year's Gen G, it's why you can't give up on them, because you look at that and you go, just imagine if it works, though. Imagine. So I think those two rosters are pretty fucking cracked out, bro. And I almost feel like if you're ruler, you deserve those rosters, mate, because there were some years you were carrying some ropey ass fucking Samsung and fucking Gen G rosters where you were sick, but you just couldn't win. So I actually love that he's had all these super teams built around him in the last few years. I do love him as a player. He's a sick player.
No. Those are good ones for sure.
Okay. Lamppost Lenny, I've got my eye on the time, don't worry. Lamppost Lenny says, Thorin, hearing about what you like about in an ADC versus a mid laner and your conversations surrounding, I have a theoretical question for you. Okay, interesting. He says, would Flackhead be your favorite player if he was a mid laner? He's always stable. He's never the one to lose you the game, and he's amazing in team fights. I am not the biggest Flackhead fan, but thinking about his playstyle in mid sounds amazing. Now, here's what's funny. I know what you mean by that question, but what you're doing there is you're being a bit overly reductive. Like, if you think of my favorite players in League, people from mid lane, it is people like Froggen, Larson, modern day Jensen when he was still sick and he wasn't
only
the
Scandinavians. I see what you're doing, Thorin.
But the problem is they're doing the thing there where they're like, oh, you're just like boring players that aren't that good. No, these are like some of the most skilled players ever at the position. You have to understand. And the point is, yeah, they have a very thematic way of playing, but it's like Chovy. They're trying to max that out and make that the best style in the world, right? Flackhead's not fucking Uzi Eye. He's not. If you want to take a defensive ADC, maybe early Deft's a fabulously skilled player, though. So the problem is, look, I don't even dislike Flackhead as an ADC. I would think he's all right as a mid laner. That sounds to me more like a nuke or something like that, you know. The problem is, I also like players that are very skilled but do that. Because what I'm fascinated by Yamato was this. By default, skilled players play aggressive and play up-tempo and want to go crazy. So when the player instead comes along, you get this with chess sometimes, who has a brilliant sort of conservative mindset where he's amazing, but he uses it sparingly. It's why I've been so fascinated by the rise of Chovy. Because Chovy didn't break and go, fuck it, I just roam and die people like Jizuki. He was like, I'm going to ride this CSing thing and sidelining thing to the absolute limit. And I'll tell you what, in spring and MSI last year, it looked actually unbeatable. It looked like he's completed the game, bro. Like no one can kill this guy and stop him in the game. So I get what he means, but it's actually the reason why there's a famous episode, which was the last episode of Listen Loco, if you remember, where Giotto, to try and fuck with me, tries to imply like, oh, Reckless is basically the Froggen of ADC. And it's like, bro, you've missed what I think about the roles, though. Because I do think at mid lane, you can be a monster guy who plays conservatively in mid lane. Because mid lane isn't even about solo killing, it's about getting your items in the CS. The problem is, I do think for ADC, you do need to have someone who's aggressive in lane. It's the lane where you get all the ganks off, mate. So the difference there is he didn't understand that. He was sort of saying, hey, I'm comparing a mid and an ADC. It's like the different roles, bro. That's why it doesn't work. The joke is, if you went that way, I'd have to go the other way around, wouldn't I? Like, I'd rather have the aggressive mid than Reckless in that scenario. And also, the two did play together. It was ass. It was fucking terrible, guys. That never worked together. It's okay. Morguina says this is an NBA question. So you don't follow the NBA, right?
I don't know shit about NBA.
It's really, actually, I can make this very, very quick. Morguina says, it seems as though the GOAT discussion is almost unanimously between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. That's because LeBron James's actual agents and media company literally pay and influence massive fucking broadcasts, and ESPN has lived off LeBron being in the league for the last 10 years. So it's not. All the great players I know think it's like the Michael Jordan and then Larry Bird, or Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, or Michael Jordan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. It's just some media narrative. But if he goes, who would be your 3 to 5? Right, first of all, LeBron isn't in my 5. Suck on that. Secondly, it's coming out very soon on my side channel. I actually did on my stream a top 60 list in the NBA. You'll see who my favorites are. So a very quick version would be, I'd have people like Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird. Who would the ones after that be? Maybe I would put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Wilt Chamberlain or something. There you go. There's some old school ones, right? This is a question for Yamato. Richie says, you probably answered this before. Don't fucking ask it then. You fucking idiot. Why are you asking questions we haven't answered before? So I'll forgive you that and hope that he hasn't. What are the differences between EU and Korean teams in terms of scrim culture and the experience of being in both environments? What did you like / dislike? Well, now we're doing 50 questions. You put 50 questions in a one. So the question is like, what do you think are the differences and what did you like or dislike?
I do think, like, in terms of where Korean culture is, I think that's a massive benefit for like setting team culture too. Because like working in Korea, the older players take care of the younger players. There's an inherent brotherhood. It's like there is also a work ethic that is already like giga implied, because it's like even for the players to get there. Like I recommend everybody to watch like the owner video, his documentary that SKT like released, in terms of what he needed to do to get to his position, in terms of like the pressure in school in order to get like good grades, and like the 1 month boot camp he had to do, and like the amount of pressure like people are like young kids are in Korea, is that the pressure is insane. It's absolutely insane. So it's like in terms of managing the pressure and the expectation and the standard and maintaining that brotherhood, these are things that I have to work very hard to put into place in Europe. And that's usually like the biggest struggle. It's like the biggest struggles in Europe, and a lot of times when it comes to very talented players, is the motivation, is seeing the bigger picture, is following a standard and achieving that every single day. Because in Korea it was very easy. It's like only focus on the game, give direction, focus. It's like the one thing that I kept pushing them on and challenging them on, which made them very uncomfortable, was that I wanted them to be involved in the decision making. I wanted them to take pride and take responsibility rather than just being led. Because there were many moments where I would be like, let's play this. They would just play it blindly. There was this like very specific moment in time where we prepared against T1. We didn't win against them a single time in scrims, so I wanted to do like a Sona Tarek Hecarim strategy against them. Right? And we played and practiced it internally. We played it. It worked to some degree, and I just kind of wanted to do a Hail Mary. Right? And then at the time, like the players agreed, everybody agreed, because I'm the head coach. I run the shit, right? And in the end, I could notice that as they played and the game went through and we lost, I could see in terms of their body language that they didn't buy into it. And I push them every single day. It's like, you need to challenge what is going on, because you guys are playing the game. We need to make the best idea possible with all of our ideas, and I need to be challenged. You need to be challenged. And that was like the opposite, because in Europe, the egos are so high that everybody wants to be involved. Everyone wants to play their own way. And that if you perfect that, there is like more opportunity. But as I was in Korea 2020, I could see that Damwon recognized the flaws of why they lost against G2, and they were implementing these ideas of being more loose and being creative, because Battle, of course, was a very specific player, and then Showmaker also changed up, and how they played was a lot more free fluid, and they realized that they needed to change this. So I would say those are the big contrasts, right? Because in Europe, like, you have, of course, so many different cultures. It's like Vitality is the best example. So I had one Portuguese player, one Italian player, one French player, one Polish player, one German guy. They're all coming from different cultures, different backgrounds, different way of communicating, different accents. So fucking confusing the first week listening to like Italian English. I don't understand what he's saying, French English, you know. But it's like, in that confusion, if you manage to piece it together, you get like the best of many different worlds, but it's extremely challenging. Because if it doesn't go right, you're just the last place team. And that's something that we see very often, right? But when it hits, you do create something very unique, as Vitality ended up being.
We're going to do one last question, and then in the next episode, I'll just make a bit more space and we'll get some of the other ones done. Franny Boy asks, what in your opinion, this is for all of esports, what in your opinion is the most satisfying stomp in esports? What's the craziest one you've seen that you've satisfied you somehow, a stomp in the game?
I have to say it needs to be G2 versus Team Liquid MSI final.
That's a good one. Record time.
Because like Wunder just set it perfectly. It's like to see that as they are beating T1, Wunder saying, we won MSI. It's so fucking free. We're against Team Liquid.
Pretty good, yeah.
And then he tweets, are you ready for the fastest international best of 5? And then they just completely thumped them. Like, it wasn't even close. It was a joke. As big of a joke as they made it out to be. That to me was just, like, I get goosebumps even talking about it. So like, that to me is just, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
All right, mine's going to be easy, because if you remember, Summoning Insight came out in 2014. So here's the answer. Go to 2014 Worlds, and in the quarterfinal, Samsung White plays TSM and intentionally drafts later and later game champions, then just invades at level 1 and murks them over and over again. And the joke is they wouldn't even have gotten one game if they didn't do the most insanely bad draft and just give it like it's if you hated TSM fans back then and you hated all those plebs that were like, I think Bjergsen could probably be as good as Faker. Like, this is the best series ever to watch because it's like that's the sort of thing me and Monty would like toast each other with champagne as all the peons just cry, "Be life." So anyway, yeah, that was a fucking amazing one, mate. That was finger licking good, mate. Fucking hell, are you kidding me? That was the shit. That was the shit. I might go rewatch it now. I'm fucking hyped. Right, anyway, that's going to be the end of the episode. By the way, in a few minutes, actually, part 2 of my Dylan Falco reflections comes out on YouTube. It was done in the off season of 2023, but it's a reflections. Like, it's all about stuff from the past anyway, so it just goes up to 2023. But it's a banger. Some really interesting stuff in there. Some interesting stories. Thank you to Yamato. Thank you to all the sponsors and everyone who supported them, obviously. And if you're listening on the VOD, drop the like and all that, and put a nice comment for the algorithm. We'll see you on the next episode of Summoning Insight.